Attention all wrestling fans, get ready for the ultimate fan experience at the WCBS Wrestlemania fan meetup in Los Angeles, California from March 30th through April 2nd. This event will bring together the biggest event in wrestling and your favorite podcast, as well as diehard fans from all over the world. This is the perfect opportunity for fans to connect and celebrate their love of the sport as well as their love of us. So mark your calendars, grab your tickets, and get ready to suck it and join us live. Don't miss out on the ultimate fan experience of the WCBS Wrestlemania fan meetup weekend in LA. And if you're not a wrestling fan, there will be other YouTube creator events, including a trip to the brand new Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios. So listen to World Class Bullshitters Live for more updates, and for more information, email worldclassbs@mail.com. Thebestmail.com, jabroni. Submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is my co-host, Caffeinated Wolf.
What is going on, Jeff? Hail to the High Council, hail to the chat. We got a great panel and a great show.
We do, folks. We do. It's Tuesday night, which you know means you're going to be entertained. Now, up next, from EchoBaseNetwork, say hello to our good pal, Nick.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite, brother.
You are very welcome. Dude, if we're going to talk about Star Wars, you know we want to get one of our favorite channels on YouTube involved in the conversation as well. So, and finally, folks, you know him, you love him. He's a published author and an all-around great guy with a great laugh. Say hello to LiteratureDevil.
Hello. Thanks for having me back on.
Dude, it's a pleasure to have you on, man. Folks, you know, when we have LiteratureDevil, you know we're going to have a good conversation as well. Now, tonight, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. We're going to be talking about The Mandalorian. We're going to be talking about other pop culture-related stuff. We're going to get into the fun, the nitty-gritty, the minutia, all that stuff, and whatever else you guys want us to talk about. So you guys know how to control the show. But before we start, let's give a quick shout-out to our newest member. Trace XL just joined the membership program. And now, Trace,
yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Now, folks, I spent this morning, the first block of my day, working on the Eric and Julia Lewald X-Men interview. Now, if you're thinking, I don't know those names. I know Scott Summers. I know Jean Grey. I know Remy LeBeau. I don't know Eric and Julia Lewald. Well, guess what? They wrote the show. So I have an interview with the creators of X-Men, the animated series. We go in depth. We talk about behind-the-scenes stuff. I get to ask awesome questions and a whole lot more. And guess what? It's over an hour. I've gone out of my way to make sure I've edited to put in clips of the show, music, all that stuff. So if we're, you know, in this interview, when we talk about the Pride of the X-Men, we look at a little bit of Pride of the X-Men. When we talk about the Pizza Hut commercial, we talk about, you know, we see the Pizza Hut commercial. And I got to learn some stuff about the Pizza Hut commercial and the program that I never knew. So if you want to hear all sorts of fun little tidbits about X-Men, the animated series, including what they think of the music, what it was like to hear the music for the first time, and what we all agree on is the most defining part of the theme song, then join our membership program. That's an hour-long video, expected Thursday by the latest, could be tomorrow by the earliest. But if you don't have the membership program, that's cool. We have other WCBS content, including one we dropped today, and a few that we have coming up in the week. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, make sure you're subscribed to EchoBaseNetwork, make sure you're subscribed to LitDevil, and make sure you're subscribed to Caffeinated Wolf for everybody, to get all of our updates, because you know you want more. The epitome of pop culture. So guys, we have a word of the day. And we like to throw these out here earlier. Now, the way we play it here on the High Council, or on WCBS, is somebody's going to give us a word, and we're going to use that word as a movie replacement. So, a word in a movie title. So, for example, this week's word is Dinglehopper from Shrebbles080 says, another word of the day option is Dinglehopper. Debbie Does Dinglehopper, Star Wars The Last Dinglehopper, Fistful of Dinglehopper, and Bushy Galore's Dinglehopper's Bush. It sounds like a Christmas song. Wow. I mean, if we're talking about Star Wars tonight, it'll be Star Wars The Dinglehopper Strikes Back. There's my title for tonight. And folks, make sure you guys play along with us. Send in your words. Any other Dinglehopper superhero movies, Andrew? Let's do one.
Dinglehopper Man.
The Iron Dinglehopper.
So I just covered, yes, I am completely cognizant that I just covered like half of the superhero films out there with that one.
In one move.
I like it, though.
The first Dinglehopper.
Ooh.
The Winter Dinglehopper.
Oh.
Dinglehopper First Class. There we
Oh, gosh.
Dinglehopper, man.
Dinglehopper Homecoming?
Dinglehopper in Black?
In black.
Yeah. Men in Black was a comic book movie. It counts.
Captain Dinglehopper.
I think that's a good name for Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Should we call her that from now on? Captain
she's-
Dinglehopper?
She's in the news here. I don't know.
What's up with her?
So apparently there's all kinds of set drama on the Marvels movie, and she is not getting along with the other cast members. And, you know, it was supposed to come out in July. They pushed it back to November. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like the behind-the-scenes stuff is going very well.
I'm going to have to make a whole video about this because I'm reading about it right now. Look, in 2019, she was the gift that kept on giving.
Yeah.
I guess she just can't help herself,
Some
dude.
people would be almost nothing without her.
As people got like cars and got houses based on doing videos on her.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Did you see that in that red carpet interview with her where they're asking her about the second movie and she's like, I don't know. Does anyone want to see it? Like,
Oh yeah, that was several months ago. I remember
Yeah.
that. Does anybody still want to see that? I almost had a little bit of respect for her there. There are two moments in Brie Larson's career and time in the limelight that I've had respect for her. The first and more important of the two was when she was on Jimmy Kimmel with that really nice dress.
Oh yeah.
And when she smiled for the first time that I think I've ever actually seen her have a genuine smile, I was like, oh, look at that. You cannot look like a twat. That's great. You should do that more. And then the other time was in that red carpet interview where she was asked about the next Captain Marvel, and she responded with exactly what you said, Nick. With, does anybody still want to see that? Like, in my head, I was like, is that you being kind of self-aware right now? Because she has been pretty damn... I don't think you'll ever catch me being a Brie Larson fan, but she's been pretty damn quiet for a long time now.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's because she's not going to be the star of the next movie. If
Well,
she's gonna be, like,
that's
moved to the side.
part of it.
Be shoved to the side over here.
Yeah, because she's sharing the screen with two other actresses, and she feels that it should be her movie. It's supposed to be Captain Marvel 2, and now they changed it to the Marvels, and there's other people involved, and it's not just her movie, you know. And she goes on. The person who was leaking this was saying that she was, saying, there was a Thor 2 and a Thor Dark World and Iron Man 2 and all, and now, it's not just my movie now. So,
who cares to people go see it? I already got a paycheck.
Yeah, I guarantee you the second one doesn't make what the first one did.
Oh, not a chance.
No.
Because the second one, I mean, we've talked about this on the show. In fact, I think we talked about this even as recent as last week, Jeff, where this movie, The Marvels, does not have the luxury of what the first one had, which was being put in place in between the biggest cliffhanger and the biggest finale in cinematic history, and being told by the studio that this is an important movie for context. You're going to have to see this. The only actual context is I understood why I really, really needed to see Brie Larson get punched the hell out of a movie. That's the only context I needed. Otherwise, I'm good. I didn't need to see that.
I like to call it the Avengers bump because Black Panther had an Avengers bump. That's why the first one made $1 billion. I get it. Yeah. One, Black Panther was a better movie than Captain Marvel, but it came out pre-Infinity War. And I know Endgame made more and became the biggest thing, but Infinity War isn't like a flop at all. It almost made just as much. It's a really close box office, right? Isn't it? Like, Endgame is the #1 movie ever, then it's like something else, and then Infinity War is like the top 5.
If you don't want to count James Cameron being petty and throwing Avatar back into there,
But you're right, though. She had the Avengers bump with her movie. And the funny thing is, if she's bitter about this, she did it to herself because everybody hates her because of her personality. It's not because you're a woman. It's not because you're ugly. It's not because whatever sexist reasons the world could come up with or some shit. Everything that people hate about Brie Larson comes from her. I'm surprised she's a spokesperson. You talked about her being quiet. I would guarantee that's why she's so quiet, because she's got that Nissan deal. She's got no other movies coming out, but she's got that Nissan deal. So we can joke about dropping the taco and this and that, but she knows where her bread is buttered, and that's why she does the way she acts the way she is. And if this movie is not good enough for her, well, I would love to meet her and tell her it's your fault.
Yeah,
I don't
yes.
care. The other
fault.
Marvel ladies are, you know, just as I can't believe I'm saying this. They're just as important to the plot. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Can you
we all
imagine
like
her?
Scarlett Johansson just fine.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
great.
We wanted her. In fact, you robbed her of having the first MCU female-led movie. Like
What should have came
her.
out?
You
after
jumped in front of
Civil
her
War.
in line. Yes, exactly. That should have come out right after Civil War.
Dude, I agree. Now, I would have been okay if it would have come out before. If you would have replaced the Black Widow movie with Captain Marvel, I think it works just as well because the whole back end plot of that movie is like how Scarlett Johansson got her blonde hair for the Avengers Infinity War. Like, you could have pumped that movie out honestly, and then like, oh, okay, then she goes to Infinity War and then Endgame and then she's dead. Like, it would have been way more impactful too.
Yeah,
it's not
definitely.
I like to remind people out there, like, they think, oh, the angry man babies ruined Marvel or this or that. No, the people that, like, approved everything and said you gotta like everything, they're the ones that kind of just opened the door for bullshit. That's why we're here, too. Like, with the Marvels. Yippee. We're so excited for very mediocre superhero fare these days. Disney thinks you put that red logo on it, and it's money. It's not.
Also, the one thing to be said about smiling, like the Brie Larson scowl, like the idea that you can't have a female superhero smile at all, or else it won't be taken seriously. Male superheroes smile all the time. Like I've seen them, especially like Superman and everything. They're taken seriously, and it's even more important because a woman's smile is far more nuanced. It's a far more powerful weapon than a man's smile.
It's powerful in terms of, like, say a femme fatale type character like Black Widow utilizing a smile to her advantage and utilizing her womanly wiles and charms to her advantage. But also there's a level of hope and kind of reassurance that a woman's genuine smile, like, if you just, like, whether you're in a relationship or not, if you ever have just a woman, smile at you on the street or smile at you from across the counter, pretty lady doing that, it does something to you. I'm not talking about down there. I'm just saying there's something inside of you, inside your soul. Well, look, if she's cute enough, yes. But the thing I'm trying to get to is that it instills something inside of you, like in your soul. It gives you this, like, swell of emotion and, like, reassurance, and, like, you feel like you can do anything in that moment, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things that female superheroes have going for them. There's a level of reassurance and hope that they can instill just by way of that. And when Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel in the comic books, she could do that, and she did that. But ever since the character was taken over by Kelly Sue DeConnick and turned into Captain Marvel, and then obviously in the movie with, Plank, personality of drawing plaster, Brie Larson, which makes no sense to me, because then I saw that interview on Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm like, well, look at that. You can smile. You can laugh. You can human. Where was that?
Well, I knew her from 21 Jump Street, and I was like, this is the same woman? What happened to her? She used to be happy in her movies.
Yeah.
Oh,
also, well. Even if in a superhero lady takes on a whole new level, because I think what they said it correctly. They are pretty on point. If you ever watch My Hero Academia, where like All Might, it's like, I don't smile because I'm happy. I smile so that, because I'm scared. He's scared when he's out there fighting people. He's terrified, but he puts on the smile so that everyone knows that everyone else can be reassured. Everyone else can know that he's there, so it's going to be okay because he is there.
I just want to point out, even the Terminator smiled in the director's cut of T2. So I mean, if Arnold can do it as the Terminator, Brie can do it.
I agree. That and the speech and all of that stuff really just got us to where we are, and it's been lovely. But I'm glad you brought this up to me, Nick, because I am going to make some content about this. Before we move on for a second, do you think, let's just play a game. Will the Marvels make less than Ant-Man?
Ooh.
I don't even know how much Ant-Man made.
Ant-Man is looking to lose money. That thing might not even hit 500 million by the end of its box office run right now. It's doing horribly.
Yeah, it's at 437 as per the other video we made the other day.
Yeah, like, congratulations, you beat Black Adam.
Yeah,
you played yourself.
And that was a movie that I happened to actually enjoy. You can't do anything.
I think the Marvels will do worse than Ant-Man.
I think at the very least it's going to be in the bottom 3 of the MCU films. So somewhere at that same level of like Eternals, Ant-Man 3, what would the other one be that really did poorly? Was it Thor 4?
Yeah, Thor 4 didn't do big.
Yeah, Thor 4 didn't do well at all. So yeah, in that same conversation at the very least. So we're talking like half of what the first one did, and that's not counting inflation.
I forgot what the so there's some. I saw a video on the Marvel movies, including Thor, and one thing I did notice, and this one video agreed. I forgot who it was. I wish I could remember, but Thor doesn't actually grow in any of his movies. Like, he may grow in one movie, but all of his growth will have gone away by the next movie. So the way they put it is that every movie Thor has to find himself again.
Yeah,
and every single movie he has to find himself. Like, he's like an eternal college student, like going to Europe or something like that. He's eternally finding himself. If we kind of feel like God of War, where like Kratos has to prove his worth 10 times a game, like isn't like 1,000,000 times enough? Like, hasn't Kratos proved his worth 100 times already? Can you just use that already as credit or something? It's kind of like that. Whereas the Captain America, Steve Rogers, he started off very, very moral, but he changed over time, and his changes kind of remained as he gained more experience, as he pursued his career as a superhero. And then, of course, Tony Stark, major change, major character growth from his first introduction to his death.
Well, that's what makes his character the best in the MCU phase 1 through 3, because he had the strongest arc overall. Yeah. He literally came full circle. He did a
complete turnaround.
Complete turnaround. He started out as the most narcissistic, self-obsessed, addicted asshole, and then he sacrificed himself. He thought he had sacrificed himself in the first Avengers film, so that was already major growth. And something that I wish they had done better was the PTSD that they were kind of dealing with a little bit in Iron Man 3. I wish they had leaned more into that, because I think that if you take that into account, his second sacrifice, the permanent one, well, I guess it's comic book characters. Is it ever truly permanent? We don't know. How long until they decide to jingle those nostalgia keys in front of us, right? But what I'm getting at is, if you count that PTSD and that struggle that he had internally after his sacrifice attempted sacrifice in the first Avengers movie through Iron Man 3, you take that into account, that that was something that terrified him afterwards. He had nightmares about that. If you take that into account, that makes his sacrifice in Endgame all the more impactful and all the more powerful, because he knew what the stakes were. He knew what the potential was. He knew it was going to happen. He was like, I'm going to be gone, but I'm going to do this. This is the right thing to do. He had a powerful, strong arc.
Don't you miss when characters actually had arcs, instead of hey, we're going to get together and make a bunch of jokes and then try to sell you an action figure? That's what these Marvel movies feel like today. And I don't know if you guys saw the video I put out, but Ant-Man doesn't even have a toy line. I didn't notice that until
does it
now. No, what it does is, the way that works is all MCU movies have Marvel Legends figures. So the Marvel Legends line is there's the big major line for all Marvel action figures in the 6-inch scale. They're there's whatever 6 and whatever change. They're their own scale. But the point is, it's a hugely popular toy line. And the way they do the movie lines is they put out a wave that'll either be all dedicated to the movie, or they'll do it 4 movie figures, 2 comic figures, and 1 video game figure. Now, Spider-Man No Way Home had 4 figures come out, and then they're going to release the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield ones in the future. every Marvel movie has their stuff out before their movie. Ant-Man isn't coming out. The figures aren't slated for until July or August, but the Guardians toys are coming out in April. I'm guessing because the way the figures are produced and sold is you can buy them in specific cases. You don't have to buy like the entire wave. I don't think a lot of the Ant-Man shit's going to ever hit stores. I think they'll repurpose the comic figures and do something, and Ant-Man will just kind of disappear because that's going to be like 4 months from now. And if Guardians doesn't hit, these Ant-Man figures will come out right around when Captain Marvel comes out. And that shit's not going to sell because it didn't sell the first time. We had the videos here. Go back and watch our millions of viewed videos about Captain Marvel shit. And they're just going to be fucked. They're already like fucked this year. And it's only March 14th. So,
yeah.
I've never seen them in this position.
Well, Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever didn't sell merch. Like that merch is sitting on shelves collecting dust.
I've been out there filming that shit, dude. People are not receptive to Shuri. They don't like Ironheart. They don't like these derivative characters. Like War Machine technically would be a derivative character, but he's not really because he's his own thing. Yeah, it's an Iron Man armor.
He's also been around forever, and he was introduced really, really early on in the MCU, and that's a difference.
And he's cool looking.
Yeah, I love War Machine.
He's got cool armor for sure. He's like the bulky version. He's the enforcer. He's the bodyguard. Not that Tony Stark really needs one, but you could kind of think of him that way in terms of like the difference in build between them. And Iron Patriot's cool, I guess, as well in terms of the armor. Oh yeah,
I like War Machine quite a bit. See, so nice. he's a character I love.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was introduced early on to people in the MCU, so people were receptive to that because that was almost from jump. Like he was hinted at in the first Iron Man movie.
Also, in these situations, it's there's reasons why people are okay with things like War Machine or instances of like Sam Wilson taking over Captain America had they not ruined it. But
nobody wanted that.
Yeah, but the thing is, it feels right when it feels like it's like the Apprentice, that sort of thing, where it's like it feels like they've earned the right to step in those boots. So it was the Tony Stark's friend, the guy who became War Machine. I forgot what his name is. I know it's played by Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
But was he
Rhodes.
actually taught? Yeah, Rhodes. Was he actually taught by Tony Stark? No, not really. But he was Tony Stark's best friend right from the beginning. Like he was connected to Tony Stark in a very strong, intimate way right from the beginning. So when it came down to it, and it was Rhodes of all people who attained the Iron Man suit and became War Machine, it felt right and natural because they kind of had the same kind of mindset. They're very close friends. And Rhodes was like he was a soldier and everything. Sam Wilson was friends, kind of a colleague to Captain America because they were soldiers as well. Although I think it'd be far more narratively significant again for Bucky to have inherited the role of Captain America.
Yes.
That would have been more narratively on point, and it would have ushered in a conclusion to Bucky's character arc because then he became good again. He became whole again. But they didn't do that because he's white. So they can't have that. Can't have a white Captain America again. But the thing is, it's okay if we are more accepting to someone stepping into another character's shoes or temporarily taking on the mantle of an established superhero when there's a connection. And I kind of equate this to the master apprentice connection, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It rarely is in these movies. But it's like a character that kind of became was in some way connected or under the main character in some way, but they're connected, as opposed to this we have this character who's awesome, and then we're gonna have another movie. We're gonna add in some random character that comes out of nowhere, another one. Usually the self insert character from the writer of that movie, and that came out of nowhere, swooped in, stole the title, and now they're the title character. And if you have a problem with it, you're sexist or something, or racist or whatever. And they have no connection. They just swooped in and took it because they're super special, awesome, and don't smile, and that's why. And is good at everything. So we are accepting, and would be accepting, of pretty much any character under almost any circumstance, as long as that character has been established. We've seen them, and we've seen that they've earned that title, as opposed to them being given the title because they're totally worth it or whatever.
So I'm gonna take all of that, I'm gonna repackage it, and I'm gonna push back on it at the same time a little bit here. This is as a longtime comic book fan and many years of talking about comic book stuff specifically. A lot of what you said there was on point for sure. There needs to be a personal connection. There needs to be significance to it. It has to feel earned. That said, not every hero is a mantle.
Oh, definitely not.
Not every hero title out there is just something you can give to. I don't care how close somebody was. I don't care if they're related. Not every title makes sense to pass down. Thor is a dude's name. Okay. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Clark Kent / Kal-El is Superman. And there are far more examples of heroes that are not mantles than those there are. There are actually very few that actually work as mantles, and more often than not, some of those even would be better off as like, okay, you worked with this person, you were very close with them, but spin off into your own thing. That's why I consider things like Batgirl, Robin, and Kid Flash mantles, because I see those as, all right, this is your proving grounds right here. You're going to learn from the best, and you are then going to, if you make it, you can then grow into your own thing. Like for Batgirl, I think had Barbara Gordon not gotten paralyzed, she could have become something completely different from, Oracle.
Yeah.
We've seen examples of this. There's Black Bat, there's Silencer. We've got all these other characters that have been Batgirls that have their own identity. Same with the Robin mantle. You've got Dick Grayson, Nightwing. I don't need him as Batman ever. I like him as Nightwing. You've got Tim Drake, or you've got Jason Todd, who is Red Hood. Tim Drake, I think it makes sense for him to, as he grows, maintain the name of Robin in his name. So I like him growing into Red Robin, because I think that Tim is almost the most important Robin, because he became Robin out of recognizing a necessity for the character to be alongside of working with Batman. And you can do that with other characters as well. But this whole idea that every single hero is a mantle, everybody needs a copy, everybody needs to pass the torch along eventually. No, at some point, Batman's gonna die, and somebody else can just we
need a new hero.
Take his place, and not take his place as Batman, but take his place as another hero. And that's entirely fine, because you start cheapening, I think, the characters, because a lot of times these characters they're not just the name, it's who they are. Peter Parker is Spider-Man because of Peter Parker, because of Uncle Ben. You don't have Spider-Man without that. So anybody else is a pretender. And you can say the same with Superman. Superman is Superman because of Clark Kent. And Clark Kent is who he is because of Jonathan and Martha. If you don't have that, what you likely end up with is a tyrant with demigod powers. AKA The Boys. Or
essentially
something else. Like, what was that movie that... Was it J.J. Abrams that did the movie? Who was it?
Which movie?
Gosh. It starts with a B. I believe it starts with a B. It's where it's kind of like a what if movie. It's not actually Superman, but the kid may as well be Superman, and it becomes a freaking
Brightburn.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
You end up with that. I heard it was quite good, but that's what you end up with. And so I think that and I don't know who started this idea, who started this notion that every single hero title is just a mantle to be passed on to some other schmuck.
Well, they started that because they wanted to have their own self-insert political characters come in.
Right, and take advantage of existing branding. Yeah, exactly.
And
I also... Oh, they did it with Riri Williams. Dude, she's a flop of a character.
Our first one was Iron Man. Like, she first appeared and stole the Iron Man title, and then they gave her later on Ironheart.
So I think part of it comes from it's easier to sell Wolverine comic books instead of whatever X-23 is. So they just rename everything and call it mantles. I think it's stupid. I don't disagree.
She was Talon. Laura was Talon. And that was perfectly fine. They didn't need to call her Wolverine. And look, Marvel, just because you have the writer have the actual Wolverine say that she's Wolverine in the comic books doesn't make her Wolverine.
No.
that's not
Wolverine
good enough. It doesn't work.
Wolverine,
we still don't believe you.
He's been around for nearly 50 years, and there's a reason why you could sell a Wolverine action figure every wave of Marvel Legends. I think it's Marvel's obsession with trying to make unpopular characters popular, because for whatever nefarious or whatever behind the scenes reasons, they refuse to let the characters be themselves because they're not as diverse or whatever. Like the X-Men, I hope they never make an X-Men movie because they'll fuck it up. Wolverine will be wrong, Jubilee will be wrong, they'll all be different colors, they'll all be banging each other. Like, look, there was romance in the X-Men, but it wasn't like debaucherous and stupid. It was like, oh, Scott and Jean love each other. Awesome. They're going to have a wedding, this and that. Mm-hmm. If they made an X-Men movie today, the X-Men show would just be like it'd be a porno, which I'm cool with, but no, with X-Men, just like make a different movie.
A very deviant porno, too.
I got to say, though, if it was like the boys' level of orgy, and that's the whole X-Men movie, I wouldn't be too mad. It's like, hey, it's Nightcrawler.
It'd be that, but it'd be women driving. It'd be women like leading the way, so it'd be a lot more emotional damage, because that's kind of like how they like to play it. A lot of emotional, psychological damage, especially towards men, like belittling, castration, that sort of thing, emasculation. So they'll have like Jean Grey fall in love with like a Cyclops or something like that, and then he figures out that she's also been banging like Wolverine on the side, and he just gets devastated. And it's
we'll also get tokenized Jean Grey.
Inevitably
in the next reboot of the franchise,
probably
because we've got to continue to erase redheads.
All the redheads.
Apparently, Hollywood is the holdover state. This is what my theory has been. I can speak on this because I'm of Irish heritage. Hollywood, I'm starting to honestly, legitimately believe, is a holdover from the legitimate discrimination and prejudice that was shown towards the Irish when they first came over to the States. Because that's what I don't know how else you explain it being literally every redheaded character that gets adapted from an existing medium onto the Hollywood screen. I don't know if you could give me a better explanation, I am fully willing to hear it. But that's all I've got right now. Because it's every single one.
I know one comic book character who's redheaded that won't be race swapped.
Who?
Mine.
I don't.
That's a good answer.
But also, you hit on Nightwing a second ago, and I actually read the storyline in which Robin switches to Nightwing. I mean, this is the original Nightwing costume where he's like the disco high collar kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
That's the high tea costume. People,
the really high tea.
Sleep on that one.
Only real men
you
can
have
wear that
to be
one.
a real man to pull that.
Let me pull that one up real quick.
But I remember the circumstance. I think it was the Judas Contract. That's what it was called during that storyline, and it was part of that storyline was where Robin was concerned was that he wanted to quit the team, like he wanted to separate himself because he had a crisis of identity. And it's not the whole thing, or what am I? That sort of thing. Or like, what are my pronouns? It wasn't that kind of identity. It was his connection to Batman, because he was still Robin at that point. And it's like, he didn't feel like himself. Like, he didn't feel like he was he was a hero. He was part of Teen Titans. He was a leader. Like, he was a great hero, but he didn't feel like he has grown into his own yet because he was still under the Robin moniker. So when it came down to it, when it was time to just go to the final shove against Brother Blood and Terra and Deathstroke, it was time to go for the final confrontation. He's like, I'm going to go as my own man, and then that's when he goes up and changes into this thing. I don't know where he got the costume. I forgot how he got the costume, but he changes into this costume. And he's like, I'm Nightwing now, because this is his. It kind of emphasizes the whole importance of the character separating itself and separating the character's self from another hero. So becoming their own. So instead of being the sidekick, he is now someone in his own right. He's a hero in his own right. And this kind of goes into the idea of, the hero's journey, the ego of the man, where every single the clashing, the conflict he has with his father, and this is part of the hero's journey. You have this with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in a more confrontational way. It doesn't always have to be that way. So in this case, Robin, Dick Grayson, Robin, and Batman, they like each other. They're team members. They like each other a lot. They are on the same side. They have mutual respect. There's not like this evil, vicious hatred for one another, and they're not enemies. That's the other conflict. The conflict a son usually has with his dad is that the son wants to go make a name for himself. That's the thing. So this is why all these sons who inherit their dad's business will not be satisfied. They'll just squander the money or something like that. You're not usually satisfied unless they can outdo their father or they go their own way. So the son will always psychologically need to make a name for himself. It's all part of the ego part of the psyche. And superheroes emanate the ego part of the psyche, especially in men. The thing is, it's to establish a legacy. And men really have an innate biological need to establish legacy, and this is part of it. This is part of it. This distinguishing yourself from your patron, from your mentor, from your father. This is Robin staying in the superhero game like Batman taught him, but going his own way, making his own legacy alongside Batman, alongside everyone else he's ever worked with. So this is a very important moment, and I really like this moment because it was the moment in which Robin, Dick Grayson Robin, found out, acknowledged that, yeah, he's doing all these great things, but he'll never be his own man until he breaks away officially from Batman. Not out of hatred, because out of necessity, essentially, for his own ego, psychologically. It's also a psychological break of him stepping out of childhood, stepping out of adolescence, and into adulthood.
Dude, I love the way you analyze the psyche of the men versus women in terms of our entertainment that we consume, because so much of the bigger stuff, when they're trying to make it appeal to the broad demographic, is like round hole, square peg type of situation where it's like, we're different. Yeah. But when you watch the classics like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, they balance that traditional, like, romance story, this, that, like you call it a 4-quadrant movie back in the day. It went for what was natural. We go against what's natural in our entertainment, and it just doesn't feel right. It's like, oh, what? It doesn't need to reflect our boring everyday life, but there are themes and tropes that we're all supposed to be a part of. It's a bigger thing, and I'm always disappointed when we go the opposite route.
Oh yeah, this is why as hard as they try to force men to leave the comic book stuff behind, the superhero stuff, and then force women to start watching more in greater numbers. It's like, we just need more women in superhero stuff. We just need more Brie Larsons. We need more female superheroes to star in superhero films, and then more women will watch them. Well, that's not how it works. Because fundamentally, as I said before, and I'll keep saying it, fundamentally, men and women like different things. And on that note, men like physical conflict, women prefer social conflict. You see this everywhere. In fact, you see this as they try to change everything to attract more women. What did superhero comics become? You mentioned this earlier. X-Men went from a bunch of cool mutants with a bunch of cool powers fighting bad guys and taking names and fighting for justice to, here's a bunch of deviant sex on an island. That's what women like. If you want deviant, crazy, there's taboo sex stories, you go to women. If you have a task a man to do that, he will give you like some master slave sort of thing, some dominance play. But if you want the real dark stuff, it's women. This is where you get your 50 Shades of Grey, your monsters, your Twilights, that sort of thing.
Well, also the weird appeal and reach out that they've attempted to do to women in men's spaces, largely men's spaces, is unnecessary, and it's obviously failed. It hasn't increased their audience. It's actually decreased their audience because they've chased away both the men who are like, oh, okay, so y'all aren't making this for us anymore. Okay, well, see you, bye. I'll fuck off elsewhere. And they've chased away the women who were already into this shit the way that it was, and therefore they were already here, and now they're like, wait, this isn't what I was into. What are y'all doing?
Because
All
I think
right. See you, bye.
I think the women who are into it already, like, first of all, strong, muscular, fit men, and second of all, they enjoyed masculine, virtuous, awesome dudes. That's which have been now replaced by
And
egotistical, narcissistic
badass-looking
women.
female characters as well that existed.
Like the heroes we have now are all narcissistic and self-absorbed, and not really heroic at all. This is kind of the costume of a hero, not really the attitude of one.
Yeah, and that's what they think is enough to sell everything. You know, a costume and a bad attitude and a brand name, and you are off to the races. But look, if James Gunn and company do it right, which I don't trust them honestly for Superman, but if we can get that like classic Superman, that like it doesn't need to be rah rah Americana. I'm not going to use those words, but if you could capture that spirit, that good natured superhero, people are going to flock to it because we're tired of the bullshit. We're tired of these snippy douchebag characters. Like, look, Iron Man may have been a snippy douchebag, womanizer, alcoholic, this, that, and the other, but when it came down to it, he threw his life on the line to be the greatest hero in society. You know, Tony Stark, he saved the day. That I don't see Brie Larson or any, not excuse me, but I don't see a lot of these modern characters that have that kind of depth. And Iron Man isn't even the most deep character out there. I'm picking a superhero comic book character that's relatable because a billion people saw the movies. If you take real stuff, you know, real literature. I'm sorry, I make comics. I can't believe I'm trying to distinguish that. But if you take like a traditional style literature where you're, you know, prose novel, those characters sometimes have more depth. There are these other films where they're more, you know, artsy. But even there, in the superhero genre, we used to have so much depth, so much richness, and now it's just superficial. And thankfully, it's hurting them across the board financially. People are done with this crap. It's like almost saying I told you so, but I'm still happy about it, you know?
Yeah, Disney's completely SVBing the MCU with their woke practices. You got Evangeline Lilly with her boy haircut. You got freaking
How do you make
Nebula with the
Evangeline
dad
Lilly look
bod.
ugly too?
Yeah.
You have to work to do that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're making girls more manly and guys more feminine. It's I don't get it.
How do we make women better? We make them more like men. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Dude, that's been a problem across the board. Like, personally as an artist, and I don't know what your notes to your artist are, LiteratureDevil, but like when I draw a woman in a comic or any kind of art form, like you saw with Tits and Art folks, I make sure I go like to the nines to try to make it like that traditional beauty, the stuff I actually like. Just it's, you know, it's what I like to put on the page, but it's also fun to watch people like re-out over, you know, art. Oh, this is too scandalous. Oh, that's unrealistic. Yeah, it's a drawing. It's not meant to be realistic. If people wanted realism, they would just look out the window. They wouldn't need to think. Yeah. Or go to, you know what? It's funny how the world has become advanced and diverse in different ways. Like there's a place for every kind of weirdness and kink and this and that out there in the world. But for some reason, traditional beauty is like verboten. We can, it's cool. People are like accepting of memes or joking about peeing on each other and this and all this other random ass weird crap. But like a smile or a traditional shape or something like that is so offensive. And I think the real reason is because certain people in the audience are insecure, and so they get upset when the people on screen look better than them. And so social media has given them a voice to sound like an asshole, and now we think it's conscientious and thoughtful to make our characters look like the new April O'Neil because it represents the world better. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants this.
These characters used to be aspirational, is what they used to be. That's one of the important things to remember about at least superheroes specifically. Where it's like, okay, yeah, these dudes are shredded, they're ripped, they're super athletic. I will never be able to be exactly that because they're literally superhuman or they're demigods, but I can try and get close, and that's me ultimately bettering myself. The female characters, it's the same way. They're supposed to be aspirational and inspirational, not like they're not supposed to be something where you think, oh, I can be exactly that. No, you're not. You're never going to lift a car, dude. At the same time, they shouldn't be like, oh yeah, totally. That character looks like they weigh 800 pounds and they're still, zipping around and fighting crime and stuff. No, get the hell out of here.
I think everything hurts when you go against what you naturally want. I'm just that's the broadest thing I can say. And that's where all this, I guess you call it woke, whatever you want to call it. It all comes from that. It's like, that's really not what we're into. Why are we being force fed this? And it's not, just body diversity and shit like that. Different body types are great. But like when we're saying like really nasty, okay, let me rephrase that because I don't want to come off as an asshole. When we say things that aren't really beautiful are beautiful. And I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about all sorts of things. I feel like we're just obsessed with pacifying the lowest common denominator, and your average everyday person's just fed up with it.
Yeah, did you see Dove's tweet on the Stop Giving Fat Suit Awards? We want better representation in Hollywood.
I'm over here thinking, what are you complaining about? You'd be selling way more soap.
Yeah.
Dove, they're the fucking... Dude, Dove is the progenitor of all this body image stuff. Remember all those commercials 20 years ago when they had all the ladies line up and like, this is what real beauty looks like. And then they won all those awards. Like, it's Dove brand soap that did it all. Yeah. Folks, if we could go back in time and stop Dove brand soap from ever being created, we would avoid this terrible timeline.
Dude, I'm ready to do Days of Future Past right now. Let's do it.
Cheap plug for my X-Men the Animated Series interview with the creators. We talked about the difference between their version of Days of Future Past and an interview and a sit-down they had with Chris Claremont. So, dude, spoiler alert, I told him I liked the cartoon version a little better. You'll never guess what they said.
They did too.
Exactly. So if you want to hear more about that, folks, join us on the membership program. We see a lot of new people like Bruce in the chat right now, as well as AJ Journeyman. So thank you guys. Now, I know we intended to start off with some Star Wars talk, but we went off into a tangent, which is completely fine.
I guess that was our cape shit segment.
Yeah, is there anything else?
Introduction segment.
Yeah, it's just our introduction segment. Is there anything else you guys would like to... anything else you guys want to say on this topic? Because LiteratureDevil, I do always enjoy the angle you bring about the social conflict for women and stuff, because I take that and I think about that. I apply it to how I see a lot of entertainment get, how am I trying to say it, interpreted. When you see a lot of these writers online talk about entertainment, the lens they use, that really helps, I think, justify their point of view and helps, helps me better understand what they're trying to say, even if I really don't like it. So, thank you. So, anybody else, anything you want to say about Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, unlikable characters, anything, really?
I think the MCU right now is on the path that we saw it on a few years ago. It's like it was eventually going to come to this point, and it's...
The MCU.
It's not good for them. It's really not good for them.
The dreaded MCU.
Phase 4 was a massive flop, and Phase 5 they kicked off with a flop, and they don't have a Spider-Man to try and sponge that with a little bit of money that mostly is going to go to Sony.
I'm almost glad that they're doing this, and they're spending this much time and money across all these movies, because maybe after it's all said and done with, they'll look back and be like, God, that was a bad idea.
Well, I mean, they're spending millions of dollars and helping us out because they're the ones taking the hit, but we're learning from them what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's a very important lesson sometimes.
And we're monetizing their stupid crap and making money off of it.
Yeah, at the same time. It's great. They're losing money, we're gaining money. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for us. So let's put this away. LiteratureDevil, would you mind picking a number between 1 and 69 so we can check in with the audience and then talk about Star Wars?
69.
All right, 69. Here we go.
Man.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast? No.
Shooter McGavin.
Forever. Holy crap.
All right, guys, gun to your head. What's better, Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison?
I prefer Tin Cup.
Womp womp. All right, Kevin Costner.
Though, if I'm being really honest, I prefer Bagger Vance out of all those if we're talking golf movies.
If
we're talking comedies, if we're talking comedies, that's harder.
I like the girl in Billy Madison better, but I like Happy Gilmore, the movie, better.
Bridget Wilson, I agree. I think she's a finer. So you guys know the whole trope that all the Adam Sandler movies used to have women with VV names.
No,
No,
So
it's not.
Yeah, it's Veronica, Vicky Valancourt's from The Waterboy. Veronica Vaughn's the teacher. Virginia Venet is in Happy Gilmore. They all have VV names. So that's just another piece of trivia for you guys.
Why did he? Was that a creative choice on Adam Sandler's part? I guess for some reason.
Maybe. I know 2 of those movies are Universal, which really would make no sense because it's a writing thing. Maybe it is a hidden thing. But it was just a weird little tidbit. They're all VVs.
Interesting. I did not even think about that.
Well, when you've watched movies as many times as I have, you're like, oh, wait. And then you read about it online. So thank you guys for joining us tonight, folks. Adama had another recommendation for a word of the day. Potential word of the day, ninja or turtle, whichever you guys choose. Also a button. Well, I'll press that button for you right now. I'll give you a ninja movie title. How about Tu Wong Fu? Thanks for everything, Ninja. What's her name? Newmar? Ninja Newmar is kind of hard to say. No. I'll pick a different title later on. Now, your button that you requested. Sure, let's get you lined up right here. 1, 2, skip a few. This should be a good one right about here.
How about another joke, Moran? What do you get?
I don't think so.
When you cross
I think
a
we're
mentally
done
ill
with you,
loner
George.
with
That's
a
it.
society that abandons him and beats him like trash, I'll
James,
tell you what you get.
call the police.
Get what you fucking deserve. Good night.
I think that the Joker is still such a powerful movie because it highlights the fact that there's a lot of people out there who feel alone, who feel very angry, who feel like an outcast, and they have nowhere else to scream or just talk because these weirdos, especially the woke weirdos, will just demonize you. They won't listen to your problems, especially if you're a man. Like the men problems, like if you're a man and if you're expressing a problem you have with something, your opinion is always shoved aside, belittled, or devalued. Oh, you're just an angry man. You're just an angry fanboy. The only thing that they allow you to do is be okay, is just support things, and just they'll go, oh, that's great, it's fantastic, and be positive about it. But if you have a problem with anything, it's like it can be like a lonely man, or was incel guys or whatever. And there's the one joy in life, the one hope I had was this character, and they ruined it. And you go online and you're angry about it, and then instead of saying, oh, what are the reasons all these people are angry, they acknowledge there's a lot of angry people, but they never ever, as much as they like to call for empathy, they never ask why. They never ask these reasons. Why are they angry? Why are we all angry at these things? Why are we mad at all our heroes being torn to shreds and being emasculated, have their character being assassinated? Why are we all mad? No one ever asks this of us. We're always just demonized. Everyone's just demonized and belittled, devalued, all that stuff. And they want us like, how do we stop this? Well, how do they stop this? Well, one way they could have stopped it, is by asking, hey, what about you guys? What do you care about? Instead of just wondering what women care about, how about ask what these guys who've been spending their hard-earned money on your product for decades, what do they have in mind? Like, what are their issues? What do they want to see out of the movie? But we're not really asked that. Not really asked that. There's more like told to comply, and so people just get angrier and angrier, and then when those feelings are finally expressed in some sort of rage or some sort of insult or just, I hate this character, go back to the way it was, instead of receiving empathy or someone coming in and saying, hey, well, why are you so angry? You get banned. You get silenced. You get forced into a hole, and they think out of sight, out of mind. But the thing is, it doesn't go away because you ban some guy off the internet. They're still going to be angry. You still have lost that customer. You just didn't listen to them. And so Joker kind of emulates and epitomizes this anger in a lot of people. And they kind of start calling it incel. It's not. It's not just that anger, but it's a similar anger. Seeing society demonize you and belittle you and toss away, or at least look down on the prospects that you want to go towards. All these things that they demand things of you, but they take away the awards and the rewards of all these things you're supposed to strive towards. So you're supposed to work hard, but they want to take away your money. They need you to work hard. They need you to do all these things. That's okay, sure. In the past, you'll be able to do these things. You'll be able to, okay, if I just give you money, I can have this product that I want. I can support this character. And now it's you better keep giving us the money, but we're not going to give you the character you want. We're going to give you this emasculated, woke version of it. And then if you don't like that, too bad.
Well, I think a huge part of it, and anybody that grew up a comic book fan, I'm not as familiar, Lit or Nick, you guys can correct me and chime in, obviously, at any time. But I know, at least for myself and Jeff, and I can speak with Jeff because I'm far more familiar with him. But growing up as a boy with these comic book characters, like I touched on earlier, these are aspirational. These are things that help kind of, in our most formative years, these were formative things that we were consuming, that we were striving towards, wanting to be like in some way, shape, or form. And when these companies now hire people who take these characters and strip them down, they use lazy deconstructionist writing because they think that they're the next Alan Moore, and they're just really, in truth, too lazy to do the work to learn who the character actually is. So like, okay, I'm just going to strip away everything from the character and focus on this one little thing because it's the only thing I know about the character. And that's going to be the whole thing that I'm going to do on them. Okay, you're lazy. Get out of here. What that does is, for me at least, that feels like you are stripping away everything that I was growing up and trying to aspire to be towards and throwing it away. You are saying that this is valueless, this is worthless, this has no place in quote unquote current culture and current society, and it's incredibly demeaning, and it sucks. That's why we're mad. You're taking these things that were very formative for a lot of people and very hopeful for a lot of people. There are people that grew up bullied, whether at school or on their street, and they saw characters like Superman or Batman or the Flash or Spider-Man, whoever, as something that instilled hope in them, maybe gave them courage to stand up to bullies, or gave them courage and temperance to withstand the bullying and make it through it and get past it. Whatever the situation was, we view that as them throwing away any sense of value that there was to those things. And that's why we're mad. And there are a lot of disingenuous people that I see either from a political angle or shit. Fuck it, I'll just say it. The right has been losing the culture war because they fucking suck at culture. They see culture as valueless. The same people that call everybody who is now in adulthood and at voting age, geeks, dorks, losers, and they see culture as valueless. Well, guess who's voting now, and guess who they're mostly not voting for? Y'all.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, the conservatives and the right wingers lost the culture war. That implies they fought it in the first place.
True. No, that's fair. No, they never cared about the culture war to begin with. And there are some that will pretend, but they don't actually care. And then there are other people who are just non-political entities who will act like the culture war stuff doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. Culture is formative for people, and that's formative for families. Politics is at the bottom. Culture informs how people act, which informs how they structure and live out their family life. And then from there, then you move into politics. Then you move into everything else. And if you lose culture, you ultimately lose everything. And yes, politics is part of that. It's at the end of it. Politics is downstream of culture. It's the lagging indicator of culture. But hell yeah, we're mad.
I think, let me put it this way. Like, if you were to go to anyone on the street, is at random, and you ask them, tell me about the Greeks. Tell me about the ancient Greeks. Are they going to tell you, like, oh, here's his detailed roster, the cultural rituals of the ancient Greeks during this area of BC. Now, I'm pretty sure that rather than facts and figures and a history lesson. We might get a story about Zeus, a story about Achilles. That tells a story. This is why stories, culture, what they call nerd stuff, is actually the most important thing a culture can produce. One of the most important things is because stories, that's who we are. But the people will remember the stories of a culture. It's just how it works. So all these all the right winger all the right winger conservative types who say, "Oh, that's all for nerds. Don't read that stuff." You grow up, you read nonfiction, you read all these facts and figures. Have lost the plot. This is why they've surrendered, because they didn't think. They thought that they were leaving this place. They're leaving comic books and movies behind to go fight the real war, quote unquote, the real culture war. When they left the war, they went off to go fight something that was not nearly as important as what this is. The culture, the actual culture. The actual culture is not. I'm going to go yell about this policy, this political policy. The actual culture right here is the movies, the TV shows, the stories in which we are creating. You can go anywhere. I mean, you can talk about a lot of things around the world, and the average person will not tell you a history lesson. The average person probably tell you the stories from that era. They're probably going to be more likely to tell you the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, or some story from the Epic of Gilgamesh, rather than how things actually were back then in that time. They're probably going to tell you easily the story of, I don't know, Nancy the spider from Africa, or tell you easily some sort of anime movie they saw yesterday, rather than tell you the actual rundown of Japanese society, or some Japanese history lesson. It's the stories you remember. Even in history, we're taught through stories. Like, oh, this is the story of the Magna Carta. This is the story of the Black Plague. This is a story about how Paul Revere, gather around children, you'll hear the Midnight Rite of Paul Revere. Everyone remembers this story, and it's like, oh, that's how it works. So he, one by land, two by that sort of thing. What was he doing? Oh, he was warning us against the British. This is the thing that's how we remember these events, how we remember history, how we remember culture, how we learn about these things. It's through story. And a lot of these things are also used to explore larger ideas. They're aspirational. They've always been aspirational. They've never been representative as the way they are now. It just happened to be the culture will write about itself. So that's why this culture will be represented because this culture wrote it. But it's never been about representation. It's always been about aspiration. And so we can see through culture and the culture stories what they deem as values, what they deem valuable, what they deem as heroes, what was important to them. All of these things. And these stories tell people in the future, tell people from across the world what we see, how we work, how we think, what we value, what we don't value, and how our culture operates. It's just how it works. That's how we communicate with each other. So yeah, the stories and all of these things, all of these, our heroes, tales, all this stuff. Yeah, it's the beating heart of humanity. And the thing is, that's where it emanates. So the reason why they lost the culture war, because they thought this was nerd stuff. All the heart of the culture, they called it nerd stuff and left. And then all of a sudden they found themselves saying, "Oh wow, we lived in a leftist society where I'm banned for saying anything remotely right wing." Huh? How did this happen? Surprise Pikachu face. Because you surrender. You didn't even surrender. That implies you fought and lost. You didn't even fight. You guys left. You guys left it, and you sat in a chair. You got up and left, and then you just allowed the woke weirdos to sit down in that chair. There was no fight. It was a surrender. I mean, it was a leaving. They went out for cigarettes. They never came back.
Just having the quote unquote better ideas in the room doesn't do anything if people haven't been educated culturally to recognize why those ideas might make more sense.
Absolutely.
Simple as that. Anyway, Star Wars.
And the fans are the one fighting this fight now.
Yeah, we are the geeks.
Yeah.
The ones that were picked on. We're trying to fix y'all's mess up.
Exactly.
Get your shit together.
you jocks all left. You left thinking that you went off to better pastures. There were no better pastures. It all got corrupted because you let the dam go. and you let the water flood everything.
Look,
You're
I'm
wondering
glad
what
you can
happened.
fix your kitchen sink all by your damn self, and you don't have to call the plumber. That's fantastic. I'm happy for you. You should still care about culture.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really good that you know that you read that whole nonfiction book. Now, give me your social credit score, sir. Give me your papers.
Dude, I've been watching this show called Tulsa King on Paramount Plus with Sylvester Stallone.
Great show.
Fan-fucking-tastic, dude. Like, I love doing this show, but I'd be lying if I wasn't thinking about, like, after I get off the show tonight, I'm going to watch Tulsa King before I go to bed. But the reason I wanted to bring it up, though, is the character goes to jail for 25 years, and he comes out, and he literally asks one of the characters, what happened to the fucking world? Like, what's going on? The pronouns, this, that. Like, it's like this show, it's refreshing to hear, like, a show where a guy's like, what the hell's going on with the world? And now, yeah, the character's white for those on the internet who actually care, but, like, it's not that kind of show. It's not that kind of show at all, because this character is very different than your traditional mobster. But it's nice to have a commentary about how the world's changed. Like, I'm 34. I'm not that old in the grand scheme of things, but shit's fallen apart so fast. Like, it almost feels like a memory of how things used to be in a sad way, you know.
Dude, I look back to even the freaking 2010s and even before that when I was in high school. Like, I hear about the shit that goes on in high schools nowadays, and I'm like, what? The weirdest thing that I thought was that, you know, we would have this, and granted, I went to high school in California, so that should tell you just about half of everything at the very least. But I forget, it was probably sometime in June, honestly. No, it wouldn't be June because we'd be out of school. There was one day out of the school year where there would be, like, they would call it like this day of silence where you're just not supposed to talk. And it was apparently to be in respect to the LGBT people. And I'm like, what does nobody talking do for that at all? Like,
so dumb.
That is like the dumbest idea ever. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to, like, have dialogue with them in some way, shape, or form if you were so inclined? Like, otherwise, who are you helping? What are you doing? Everybody just shuts up for the day with the exception of the teacher talking in class, or like, and it's not supposed to be like all day. It was like a given set of minutes within each hour or each period or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember entirely, but I just remember being like, you know, I'm just a dumb teenager here, and I'm just like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Like, why are you wasting our time? Like, if we're not going to talk, then I should just leave.
That's wasted school time.
Yeah, you are being paid to teach me, and you're not saying anything. Why am I here? What are we doing right now? But that was about as weird as it got, honestly. When I was, and granted, I graduated in 2007, but I hear about the stuff that, and I thought that was weird then, and I hear about the stuff now, and I'm like, what in the hell? I had it good. I had it really good. I got out just before everything went completely shit show.
I feel the same way. You and I are the same age. We both graduated in 2007. Yeah. And when I was in college, I remember, like, the phrase SJW didn't exist. People weren't talking like that. But I had, like, one teacher that was one of those types of teachers, and she was trying to teach us about the male gaze and this and that. And, man, I wish I had all of my school papers and all of my classes, like, recorded, because this woman used to try to teach us this, what we would call woke shit today. I fought her every time. The woman hated me. I won't say her name publicly, but that was the worst teacher, and she was a fucking doctor. She hated me because I refused to buy into her feminist narrative in school. The other lady that wanted to promote this shit, I fought back, and she loved me. She's like, good, a free thinker. But this other lady wanted to indoctrinate us back in, it would have been 2013 or 2012 when I had her, so not that long ago, but still a while. And I couldn't imagine trying to go to school now. Like, that was my senior year. I could not imagine trying to go as a freshman. Like, back then, they're just like, oh, you come to academic orientation, you hang out, you meet your friends. So, yeah.
I would get kicked out. There'd be no way in hell I'd be able to put up with all this crap.
If I had kids, I'd be homeschooling.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I was homeschooled. Honestly,
days.
I had a great foundation. God bless my parents. I was homeschooled first through 8th grade, and then I went to the local high school. So I had a great foundation. Not only did I not turn into a freaking imbecile, you know, socially and politically, but I also just got a superior education, and I was light years beyond my peers when I was in the public high school. It was pretty funny. But ironically enough, when I was in college, I had an ethics professor that was like the complete opposite. He wasn't like vocally anti-woke or anything, because I don't think woke was really even a term we were using back then. We're talking like 2000. When did I take that class? It's probably 2009 is when I took that class, I think. And that wasn't a term that was being thrown around, but there would be like one or two kids in my class that would be what we would now talk about as like, oh, you're an SJW. And he would push back on them every single time, very logically, very reasonably. And I quite enjoyed that class because he was always promoting like free thought, free thinking. Don't get sucked into any kind of just like blind ideology. Actually think through things and measure them and measure your response in kind. But it's freaking weird, man, looking at how kids are turning out, coming out of schools now. I'm like, thank God I am not currently in the education system in any way, shape, or form, because I would get screamed at by probably both my peers and professors, and I would probably at some point get kicked out.
They go in with a penis and come out with a vagina.
Jeez. You're not wrong. It seems like they think they're coming out with a vagina. What they're doing is they're coming out with like the Chinese bootleg version of it that doesn't actually function properly because it's not real. It took us a long time to get to Star Wars, but
yeah. Now, folks, do us a favor. Send in all your super chats. We're going to read those after our Star Wars segment. Do not worry. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, remember, folks, I'm going to be back on tomorrow night. I'm going to be talking about some comics. We're going to be doing a comic stream. A couple creators are going to come on. We're going to talk about a book I was a part of years ago. It's back on Indiegogo. It's called Everlasting Survivors. We're going to talk about that. Vinny's going to be on. He's going to talk about some of his projects. I'm going to give another update on Wokebusters. I've been sharing penciled pages so you guys can come hang out, talk about anything. We're not going to only talk about our projects. We'll talk about everything you guys want us to talk about and more. And then join us Thursday because we have the podcast, episode 351 this week. And then we're getting closer to WrestleMania 2. So, folks, come hang out with us. We're just less than 3 weeks away. Excuse me. I'm so excited. I've lost my voice already. I just need more sleep. But it's going to be a wonderful time, and you're not going to want to miss out. We got a lot of people that have been RSVPing, a lot of listeners. So come hang out. WrestleMania. It's going to be a great time. Even if you don't like wrestling, we're going to Universal. We're going to Super Nintendo World. We're going to have a lot of fun. Folks, be on the lookout. It's going to be an event you don't want to miss. And next year, we'll be doing it again in another city. So come hang out with us at all our WrestleMania meetups. All right, guys. Excuse me. Now, it is time for the Star Wars segment. I know people are like, I don't want to talk, because if you think The Mandalorian is back and everyone's happy and Star Wars is, saved, no. I have some bad news for you. The Mandalorian ain't too hot right now. Star Wars isn't as great as it used to be, and Star Wars isn't even as good as Disney hopes it can be right now. So it all started a few years ago, about a decade back, when Disney bought the rights to Star Wars around Halloween of 2012. Let's jump to the future, where they've released a handful of movies that were all divisive, at best, mostly panned by fans, but made a bunch of money from nostalgia. Once the movies didn't work out the way they planned, well, right as the movie started to falter, they jumped over to Disney+. Their first show was The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was a big success. A lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people on this panel enjoyed it. And
it was widely enjoyed.
Yes, it was a widely enjoyed show. And now here we are at the start of the third season of a very enjoyed show, a very popular show. But the story is that it has the lowest viewership of all the Star Wars shows.
It has even lower viewership than Book of Boba Fett right now.
And that blew my mind, because I think the Book of Boba Fett is the biggest piece of shit Disney Star Wars has put on Disney+.
Yep.
So I can sit through, I like the Clone Wars. I thought the Clone Wars is a good show. If I watch more of the Bad Batch, I'm sure I'm going to like it. There's a lot of quality in the world of Star Wars that isn't the original trilogy. Sadly, none of it comes from the modern age. But the Book of Boba Fett, man, was just shit. Nick, you guys over on EchoBaseNetwork, along with WCBS, we've been talking about Star Wars on YouTube for years. You guys have had documentaries, we've done live streams. It's always been a lot of fun to talk about the content. And we've always been fairly positive about Mandalorian stuff. It's been pretty good to, all right. So now with this news, what is your take on the news, actually? What do you think about all this?
So I read the article, and basically I can't remember the name of the company that did this. I think it starts with the S. But anyways,
TV.
Yeah, Samba TV. Yeah. So basically, they use their metric, which isn't across the board metric. They only have access to about 3 million homes. So it's a small metric. It's not across the board, but it's a pretty good indicator of where the show is at. Now, when the Nielsen ratings come out here in a couple weeks, we'll have a much better idea of how the show's doing. But I think this is a good indicator, and honestly, I'm not surprised. I mean, let's see what, the end of season 2 ended on such a high note. And then we had this 2-year gap, waiting for, the next installment of Mando to come out. And in between that gap, we had the firing of Gina Carano. We had the garbage Book of Boba Fett. We had the garbage Kenobi series. We had the boring Andor show, which, to be fair, a lot of people did like Andor, but again, it just didn't have enough people watching it to really make it a really successful show. And then, now we're back to The Mandalorian. And, that's a 2-year gap with a lot of shit thrown in between.
And they went 0 for 3.
Yeah, so I can completely understand people just being completely checked out. I saw somebody's comment just like a week or so ago, and I can't remember where it was at. It was somewhere on YouTube or social media, but they didn't even know The Mandalorian was even back out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were gonna go watch it, but they didn't even know that it was even on. So yeah, it's not looking good. I've seen both episodes. There's some cringiness to several parts of it. Some stuff that they're doing story wise that I'm not a huge fan of. But overall, the first 2 episodes aren't too terribly bad. I'm for the most part, I'm enjoying the show so far, but it's not anything to write home about at this point in time. And so I don't know what's going to happen. We only got 6 episodes left, so it's a very short season. And I think if the word of mouth in the episodes really start picking up, I think the viewership will go up. Because if they're knocking out banger episodes that just set the internet on fire, people are going to go watch it. Viewership's going to go up. But if it's just going to be just an average, just meh, this is kind of dumb, blah, blah, whatever kind of thing, then word of mouth's not going to get around to people, and the viewership's not going to go up. Like when Mando season 2 ended, man, I told people, my family, I told friends, man, you guys got to go watch Mandalorian, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was telling everybody. And, yeah, it's not there yet. The season is getting off to a slow start for sure.
Well, the thing is, I think an important thing that you touched on was the word of mouth bit. Word of mouth spread eventually like wildfire with this 0 for 3 that they just did with Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, and Andor, where nobody cared. They had declining viewership. It was getting panned by fans. Now, obviously, as you mentioned, Andor was getting praised by a fair number of people in terms of like the quality of its writing, but not nearly enough people were just interested in the product to begin with. Like the concept and idea of Andor, like that show, that has its niche market, I'm sure, but that's not what you've got to focus on right now, Disney. When it comes to Star Wars, you got to fix Star Wars, and Andor ain't it. I don't care how good the writing is. That's not going to excite nearly enough people to be willing to give you another crack at it. And I will say, when it comes to word of mouth, in order to get that word of mouth and that positive energy and that positive spread of that, you need more episodes like last week's episode of Mandalorian season 3, and no more like the first episode. The first episode, it wasn't a bad episode, but it wasn't a fun episode. It was just kind of, it existed to set up a bunch of plot points that we may or may not see followed through on in this season, or, into next season. Whereas this last episode, I thought was a ton of fun. I had a blast from start to finish. I had taken a nap actually after we wrapped up this show, Jeff, last week. I took a nap. I was like, all right, I'm gonna lay down for a little bit. I didn't actually fall asleep. I just kind of laid there in the dark listening to an audiobook. And then I had an alarm go off. I'm like, all right, let's see what this is about. I'm gonna check it out. Hopefully it's better than last week's. And I was just almost from Jump Street. I was wide awake. I'm like, all right, I'm here for this. This is fun. This feels like exactly what I need from this show right now. And there's still room for improvement, but this is what you need to give me more of in order for me to be excited, or at the very minimum, me to be like, all right, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. I care, right? That's important. Fans need a reason to be invested. And, however you feel about, how certain things in the lore have been handled, that's another conversation we can have. But fans need a reason to be invested about at least what you're putting on the screen and presenting now. With these characters, the story that you consider canon right now, we need to give a shit. And at least with last week's episode, I did. And I was like, all right, hopefully next week is more of that. Tonight's episode is supposedly something like 50 or 55 minutes long.
Yeah,
which
it's going to be a long one.
Almost twice the length of last week's. And I'm like, well, if it's twice the length of last week's and the same quality, okay, I'm here for it. I'll be up late tonight, and that's perfectly fine. I'm an insomniac anyway. But so it's not like there's that much of a loss. What's 3 hours of sleep instead of 4? But honestly, they should not be surprised at this point with the low viewership. When I saw that article, there was this weird dichotomy that I had. I was both surprised and not surprised. I was not surprised because I was like, well, you did this to your damn selves. You went 0 for 3, putting out flop after flop after nobody even wants this flop. Speaking of Andor. And you expect people to be like hyped for anything Star Wars right now? Most people, normal people, are going to be like, yeah, so that brand's damaged to me. I'm not really interested in anything that you put out within this franchise now. I just don't care. So I can't blame people for being in that boat.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the brand dilution, brand damage, because based on the numbers we have, Loki was 35% more popular, 35% more watched than Andor, than the Mandalorian. But people tend to talk about the Mandalorian more than Loki. Like, it's weird that the numbers don't add up, because the Mandalorian, for all of its shortcomings and faults, it actually has stuck around. It's the only Disney thing in the modern era that is present, always. Like, for a lot of people out there, The Mandalorian fits in with the old Star Wars. They know that's what more people want, so that's why they kind of go that way. But any opinions of the show aside, the one thing we can all agree on, because it's just factual, it sticks around. Like other shows, or even other streaming shows that are going to come back, don't have the same presence. Stranger Things, yes, in the beginning it was more of a present thing, but now that we have even more streaming, you don't see people talk about Stranger Things as much as you do the closer you are. Mandalorian is just Star Wars. It just, overall, Star Wars is kind of dead. I mean, we don't need to try to figure out what did it. We've lived through it. It's been a few years of garbage. But, you think George Lucas kind of laughs if he ever hears these conversations? Do you think he goes like, haha, they did ruin my Star Wars, but I'm happy that, the fans don't like it?
I probably a part of him's probably like that, but there's probably another part of him that's just like
he wants to,
boy. Like he wants to just cry,
Yeah.
Like this is not what I wanted. And that's the other thing that I have a lot of respect for George Lucas, but I do not respect that man for selling Star Wars to Disney. I thought that was the dumbest thing he could have ever done. He could have literally kept Lucasfilm a company and licensed somebody else, another studio, to make his film in conjunction with Lucasfilm. Like he could have got Disney to do it, or 20th Century Fox at the time, or somebody else to do it, and basically say, here's the outlines. Like, I'm not doing any more movies, and basically just be there to answer questions. And just go hands off. But I know he kind of talked about it a little bit and said it's kind of hard for him to be hands off, and he probably would have, been way more involved than he wanted to be. But still, man, selling Star Wars, man, that's something you created. I mean, that's like selling your kid or something. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never understand how he could have done it. But I think a big part of it is probably a lot of the backlash and hate he got for the prequels. He probably was like, man, I'm not going back through that again and spending all this time to get trashed on if people don't like them,
I agree. I mean, I've seen videos of him like where people would like run up to him and tell him they suck on the street. Like, I don't. When those came out, I was of the camp, this movie sucks, or this one's a joke, or what is this? Except episode 3. I was on board the first time I saw that one.
Yeah, it was the best one.
Oh, dude, folks, I don't know if you could if you were around in 05, then you understand this, but if you were younger than us or you missed out on Revenge of the Sith, it was like the best experience possible because we all were like, Star Wars is it. This is it. Star Wars is over. And we all liked it. It wasn't like divisive like these new ones are. Episode 3 came out. It ended people bitching about the prequels. It ended the infighting about if they sucked. The story was over. We all liked the conclusion. It was like well received. It made a shitload of money. People talked about it. Yes, people like to make fun of the memes and the dialogue, but that's, folks, that's what it looks like when you have you bring back a brand and you close it out the right way. Like George Lucas, for all of his shortcomings, he did know how to take an old property from Star Wars, 1977, make it relevant in the 90s again, and then bring out the prequels and make it even as relevant as it ever had, and made Star Wars come full circle. Disney doesn't know how. Nobody knows how to do that. Could you guys give me another brand that did that?
No.
Like an IP, anything. I can't think of it. Like even James Bond had a big hiccup. Like Star Wars was slick. Lucas was smart. I got nothing but respect for what he did in terms of like movie making and stuff. But Nick, I'm with you, dude. Somebody else could have bought it, or we could have done something else, or just left it be. Farm Lucasfilm out, turn it into a different thing. The world didn't need more Star Wars movies. No matter how much the audience out there loves our content, we all would rather these movies didn't exist. So,
well, he could have done exactly what Disney is doing, which is have creators come in with pitches for ideas for series,
and then he approves
him. Yeah, and he gives yay or nay.
No. Yeah,
it's simple as that.
Like, how cool would it have been if we actually got instead of Andor, just feels like Soldier Number 1 that they made a show out of. Instead of that, we got like a show about Donnie Yen's character. Imagine like a wandering martial artist, but like a Star Wars series.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be pretty cool, especially it's like starring Donnie Yen. That was amazing.
That has some like connection to the Force or something like that.
Yeah, and furthermore, that guy was essentially as close to a traditional hero as you're going to get because he had this ethic about him. He goes, "I am one with the Force with me." He's basically a wandering monk, with the like this pure faith in the Force that is just so much beyond him, so much beyond everyone else, and he loved it. He had basically humility and admiration for something beyond himself. Basically, like an old school monk, like an old school white knight, who puts morality and chivalry over his own well-being. That sort of thing. He's like an old school kind of hero, as opposed to the multitude and plethora of like gray, quote unquote, gray morality heroes we have now. In fact, I think we're at the point where everyone is arguing that you can't have a good character unless they're gray morality. I've seen this argued before, which is absolute nonsense. It's an option, yeah, but you could totally have a Boy Scout be an awesome character. like Superman.
Those are the same people that think Superman is just a boring, nonsense character. It's like,
because he's good.
Well, the reason the great characters took off so much is because they were a change. They weren't the norm. When they became the norm, they're as tiresome as the thing they replaced. And now we're like ready to go back to what came before. I wish there was a happy medium in terms of knowing when a trope or when an idea has expired, worn out its welcome, because we just overdo it. And then Hollywood seems late to the party as they want to shove things down your throat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Real quick on the prequels. I would have preferred and liked it better if he would have literally made episode 2 the first episode, episode 3 the second one, and then the third one have that fill-in gap of the old Republic into the Empire, where we're actually seeing the start of the construction of the Death Star, Vader hunting the Jedi down in the suit, TIE fighters, Star Destroyers, all that for the third one. That's if I would have been in control, that I would have done it that way, because that would have given a lot of those old fans that familiarity and kind of bridged that gap between the prequels and then the where we're at with the.
See, I would have been fine with that as an in between film, but I can't not have episode 1. That's my favorite Star Wars film.
Yeah, it's my least favorite.
I acknowledge that it's a lot of people's least favorite. It's a lot of people that are like, that's the worst of the prequels. It's the worst of all of them if we're just talking about the 6 films.
I like it better than any of the sequels.
It's got a lot of significance for me, as far as like, that's the first one I got to see with my dad in theaters.
Right.
You know, as a kid seeing that. That's how I was introduced to Obi-Wan, who's my favorite Star Wars character in the films. It's got my favorite lightsaber duel. I can quote that movie start to finish, and that's not even an exaggeration. You know, I absolutely love that movie. I recognize its flaws for sure. You know, now that I'm older and I understand writing better, but there's just a lot of fun for me in that movie. I can't not have that movie. But that idea that you had for your number 3, I would absolutely love to have as like a 3.5 in between that and A New Hope. I would be all here for that.
Yep. And then that makes that conversation that Obi-Wan has with Luke, like Vader helped the Empire hunt down and kill the Jedi, you know, and all that. Yeah. And he's just kind of staring off into space thinking, you know, he could have been a part of all that, you know, on the run, all that. All the other Jedi are getting wiped out. Vader's like wreaking havoc. You know, all the Star Destroyers are coming out. TIE fighters, stormtroopers, clones are gone. Like, just a huge action adventure thriller, you know, from start to finish.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get that as a sequel to Rogue One.
I think I saw a meme this morning where it's like, where Padme says to Anakin, "Why don't you just quit the Jedi Order? Why don't you just quit? You get to keep all your powers, your lightsaber, and then you get to hang out with your cool, rich senator wife."
Yeah, come on. Ahsoka left.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't you?
Ahsoka just walked out. She didn't have to like sever a finger or something. She just like, I'm gone. And we're like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yep. Dooku left.
Nothing hard. Yeah, Dooku left. Dooku left, and then no one cared. Like, in fact, Dooku left, and then we're like, when people were said, Dooku is this evil Jedi who's trying to destroy the entire Republic. Like, it's not him. That's not who he is. He's fine. He used to be a Jedi, but he left. But he's still a cool guy. Apparently, not only is it easy to leave the Order, leaving the Order is not even a suspicious thing. So why didn't Anakin just leave? It's the whole thing. As the whole reason why he became evil was because he couldn't marry Padme and everything, or because she's going to die in childbirth, or
leave
something.
The Order and marry Padme.
Yeah, marry Padme. I mean, either way, you can get help. You know, either way, it could happen. And I mean, she died of a broken heart, like canonically, even though that's kind of stupid. But had he left the Order and had he left the Order and married her, I mean, everything would have been avoided. It's not even that hard. It's not even that tough. Like, oh yeah, I forgot. I can just leave.
And and then that would have made more sense if Padme was also like, you know, kind of in the middle of this whole situation, and Kenobi got you know, Luke and Leia away, and she ended up getting away, and he never knew that they were born, but she was still alive. And then you know, Luke goes to live with his aunt and uncle, Leia stays with Padme, and then when Leia's like, yeah, I remember, you know, she was young when I died, you know, you go back and watch the episode 3, and it's like, yeah, you were
Really
young when she died. You were just born.
Real young, yeah.
How would you even remember her at all?
And Luke doesn't even question like, oh yeah, that's their mom. Yeah, you're talking about the mom that we had. And
yeah,
what was it? Oh yeah, isn't it also kind of sexist? How come Leia got to go live as a princess, but Luke Skywalker had to go live in the desert? Like, what is this nonsense?
He got the short end of the stick, man.
Yeah, who
He
made
drew the
this
short
time?
straw.
It's a good thing Leia was a girl. She got to go live as a princess her whole life.
yeah. Me and Coach have literally had conversations, you know, about prequels, about the sequels, and it's like, man, if we could have just been in the room, you know, when they were planning these sequels out, like, God, we could have given them some banger ideas on where to go, you know, at this point in time, you know, 30 years later, that fans would have just been like freaking going nuts about.
I just love that we're actually having a conversation about Star Wars that's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh,
not
look
talking
what
about the
woke thing they
sequels.
did this week instead of that stuff.
No, I miss the camaraderie. I miss the friendships that came around from Star Wars. Like in college, we used to sit around in the cafeteria and talk about the EU novels or the game that had just come out, The Force Unleashed. Like, it was a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it is what it is these days. It's been trash. Now, we keep talking about the sequel trilogy and how it sucks so much. Jon Favreau, who I guess I'll say is the only guy that knows how to handle Star Wars these days, he's been talking about Star Wars and The Mandalorian in his press junket recently, and something he's brought up out of the blue, which is stupid, I think, is he keeps talking about how this will still lead to the sequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy is still the inevitability. And I thought, as The Mandalorian is having terrible viewership and you're trying to build up Star Wars, why would you bring up the fact that it still has to connect to the one part of Star Wars most people hate? What did you guys think of this?
God, it boggles my mind. I'm just like, oh my God, stop talking. Just stop talking right now. And the thing is, they know that people did not like those movies. The actors know that fans did not like those movies.
Jon Favreau knows that people didn't like those movies.
Yeah.
He didn't like those movies.
Yeah, he didn't even like those movies. So the thing is, I've heard rumors that, you know, he was just saying that because Kathleen Kennedy's still kind of in power there, and he doesn't really have free will to do what he wants. So he's having to kind of move in that direction, and he's just biding his time, waiting for her to be gone. But I kind of almost call bullshit on that. I think the executives at Disney are so disconnected from the fan base that they're like, you know, we spent all this money on this. We need to connect it. How can we fix it? You know, how can we make these characters better? You know, and sort of do like what the Clone Wars did with the prequels. You know, a lot of people that hated the prequels after watching the Clone Wars fell in love with the prequels.
It changed my perception of them.
Yeah, the Clone Wars cartoon changed the perspective of the prequels. And I think that that's probably what is going on in their mind. You know, what can we do to change the perception of the sequels and make them better? But you can't make those films better. It's not the prequels. I mean, you destroyed legacy characters in those movies. There's no going back from that. There's no making that any better. You know, and then the weird thing is Dave Filoni inserted the way out with the world between worlds to be able to change stuff. And it doesn't even seem like they're even going to use it. Now, rumor has it that also that is going to play a part, and that they're going to do a separate timeline thing or change the timeline or something. But then other people are saying, no, they're not going to do that. Either way, we'll find out when Ahsoka comes out later on this year. We'll get our answer then. Maybe we'll get some hints at it, maybe in Mando, because it's all part of the same universe as the Ahsoka show. But yeah, I don't know what Favreau's doing or thinking. Like, I wish I could get him on the channel and talk to him.
Disney wouldn't let him anywhere near anyone.
Yeah, and that's the part of the disconnect that I'm talking about. I mean, you look at the first 2 seasons of Picard, fans revolted and hated that shit. Now we're at season 3 Picard, and it's actually a pretty decent show. Is it all-time great, awesome? No. But is it offensively bad? No, it's not that either. And you have the showrunner himself, the actors themselves, some of the writers actually going on YouTube channels with people to talk to them about the show, connecting with fans, putting tweets out there and engaging in conversations on social media with fans. Disney does none of that.
Yeah.
There's no way Favreau would ever come on our show. There's no way anybody that's involved with Star Wars at Lucasfilm would come on our show and have a conversation or anything. They are completely disconnected in their own little bubble, in their own little world, it feels like to me. And they're just going to do what they're going to do, and you're just going to like it or not. And I guess they'll just lose money or, do the right thing and maybe make some money.
Well, I think, honestly, anybody that... These are my personal thoughts on the matter. I think anybody that honestly thought that Disney was going to, in any way, shape, or form, just ignore the fact that the sequel trilogy happened and allow it to be rewritten or ignored or anything like that was kidding themselves. I don't think that's going to happen. Do I hope that they find some way to circumvent it and rewrite that era? Kind of yes and no. I guess we already have, like you mentioned, the world between worlds. We've got time travel in Star Wars now, which has got no fucking place in this franchise, to be honest. But if you're going to have it, okay, well, I guess if there's one thing to do with it, then get rid of that garbage that none of us like. But honestly, if you're going to interview Favreau and anybody that's employed by Disney right now, about the sequels, of course they're going to say, yes, the sequels are canon. The sequels are a thing that happened, and that's what's going to happen post Mandalorian at some point, however many years it is in between. That's where it is. Not necessarily that it leads immediately into it, but it's a thing that happens, and it's a thing that's going to happen. That said, one of the articles that I read also mentioned that Favreau's focus was on, well, what comes next? What comes after that? Which to me reads very differently than the other articles that were covering this same interview, in that the other articles were very much trying to hone in on, oh, well, the Mandalorian leads into the sequel trilogy, and, this is the way things are going to be, from now on. We're going to go back to these characters that were introduced in the Disney trilogy that nobody really cared for. But the other article that I read did seem to have a particular focus on Favreau's wording of what's coming next. And he wasn't specifically saying what's next for these characters in the trilogy. It was just what happens next in the timeline. So, okay, the way that if I'm going to try and have a new hope, if you will, it would be that, all right, fine, Mandalorian ends. We can acknowledge that the sequel trilogy was a thing. Skip that. Let's move on with our lives. What comes afterwards? Let's tell some stories that aren't crap, and don't crap on that which came before. That would be my hope. Whether or not that's actually what the plan is, I have no idea. Right now, obviously Favreau's focus is on Mandalorian, and I would just at a minimum and a starting point. I would like for them to just like make this a fun season, to where people can actually get excited about this thing that they grew up with. You know, I think that's important, and you have to repair it there first before you think about anything in the future.
Oh yeah,
like stop getting so far ahead of your damn selves.
Well, that's what they want to do, is just plan for the future. They want to be able to pre-sell you everything. They want to get you hype. And I intentionally left off the D there, but they want to get you excited about crap. They just, it's so, everything moves so fast. They have to rush it all. And, you know, I don't like where Star Wars is, but I can live in a world where The Mandalorian is the only, you know, I don't need a future. I don't need to go any further. Like, this time window is fine. Because, like, I don't want to see First Order Stormtroopers. It'd be cool to see a remnant of an old Stormtrooper. But I can also see a bunch of brand new stuff and never really need that. Like,
yeah.
When they ran into those scout troopers, the rogue ones in the first season of The Mandalorian, maybe that was the second. But either way, that was cool. I liked that. That shit was neat to see. And just a vague idea of that. And, like, I don't like how in a lot of genre entertainment we try to use, especially in Star Wars, 3 different eras to just try to keep pumping out more content. Like, if you don't like this, you can go to the past, or you can go to this era. It's like,
yeah,
just give us one fucking era. It's really easy just to follow one thing. Yes, more is more, but I still prescribe to the whole less is more theory. I would rather have one thing that's amazing than 5 things that are coming at you all the time. But I guess they have to necessitate, or I guess they have to find a way to justify their Disney Plus expenses, so they keep making more crap.
Yeah, Robert Meyer Burnett had one of the best lines in our Star Wars sequel trilogy documentary, where he was talking about, you know, when a corporation buys your product like Star Wars, you know, that takes precedence over, you know, telling an actual story. You know, they're trying to do theme parks and sell merchandise and apparel and TV shows, movies, video games, all this
not
sort
doing
of
a good job of selling that stuff.
No, not at all. But their focus is on trying to get all this stuff out there to try to make as much money as possible without looking at the quality of it. They're just like, this is Star Wars. This is one of the biggest IPs ever. Let's just get stuff out there, you know, and we'll try to make money, you know, any which way we can. And then the content ultimately ends up suffering.
It does. And
exactly
so
right.
do the fans. And that's where we are with everything here.
And ultimately, that circles back around to the business that paid for the property suffering, because if you make the fans unhappy, guess what? You're not going to get our money. Yet we're talking about Mandalorian Season 3. Yes, I've been watching. No, Disney isn't getting my money for it.
Me neither. I have not paid for Disney Plus ever.
I have not paid for... I did up until the night they fired Gina.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope. I revoke my wallet and its contents from your ass.
It really is just a series of stupid decisions on their part, like Disney and Star Wars. I think I'm going to do a video, every bad decision Disney made with Star Wars, a chronological history.
That's your next 1 million video.
That would be a good video.
That's your Brie Larson right there. That's your
That shit still keeps moving, man. I was going to re-upload it for International Women's Day, but I thought it's just too lazy.
That would have been a funny jab. I would have laughed. I'd have given you a view.
Thank you. I was writing down the video idea, a timeline. Okay, I will make that video, folks. I got all kinds of stuff coming up for you guys. Or moving to another platform that I've talked about for a while. Just had a lot of stuff going on, as you know. But I wanted to bring what's up on screen to your attention. I know this is a meme, but I saw this and posted it on Twitter. Now, I'm going to guess this is not real, but if it is, somebody at Disney
I think they have a yellow
fucked up.
check on it.
They what?
Do they? I think Disney has a yellow check.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Because
Do they? Let's find out right now. I'm gonna double check.
yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Disney
has a yellow check.
Disney Plus, yeah, they've got a yellow check.
Either way, this is the best meme I've seen all day, and I'm very happy to share it on the show. What's wrong with this photo, guys? Somebody say it.
Oh, look at the great couple, Luke and Leia. But it says Han Solo and Princess Leia on there, but it shows Luke and Leia. Like it was changed last minute.
Or it just shows their stupidity that they don't even know what Star Wars is or anything about the characters.
I could get down with that answer. If you guys were to watch a Star Wars movie right now after this conversation, what would it be?
For me, it would be a sequel to Rogue One. And you could call it Rogue 2 or whatever. But it would be on how they get the Death Star plans for the second Death Star. And because, in that scene, Mon Mothma, she's like, many Bothans died to bring us this information. She kind of looks down and you can see the thought in her mind of the tragic events that took place just to get the information they have on the second Death Star. And you could have the Rogue Squadron be a part of that. Rebel Commandos be a part of that we see on Endor. And just make it a fun, popcorn, action-packed, Top Gun-esque Star Wars movie. And if I had to pick one, that's what I'd pick.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I would watch that as well.
I thought you were going to say you want to watch the sequel to Rogue One, Star Wars A New Hope. I'm like, yeah, I do want to watch that movie.
That's a great movie.
It's a good movie.
I want to call it my favorite movie, but there's like so many different versions of it. I don't know. If somebody could just send me the raw footage of like each version of Star Wars where I could just cut my own version together, that'd be great, because I just don't have a file or I don't have files of like the different versions that will look the same. They have different color timing or different, picture quality. So if anybody out there wants to help me out, email us, worldclassbs@mail.com. I'll get the Jeff Hicks edit of Star Wars up as soon as I get the footage. Spoiler alert, there will be no Jabba the Hutt, and there will not be so many CGI additions, but there will still be a lot of the CGI at the Death Star. So just throwing that out there for everyone. What are we 3 hours and 50 minutes away from the Clone Wars. So, or it's not Clone Wars, the Mandalorian. So, let's check in with the audience and see what's up. LiteratureDevil, did you pick a number last time?
I did, yeah.
All right, Nick, would you care to pick a number, please?
Let's do. I just had a birthday recently, so let's go with 44.
44, good number. Now,
Second when I heard the music start.
not to go off on a crazy super tangent, but I do want to know your guys' take. Were you happy to see Short Round win an Oscar this past weekend?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was the only good thing about the Oscar event.
It's really heartwarming. Seeing, Indiana Jones hug Short Round again after all these years.
Yeah.
The clip was a nice thing to see. I don't give half a rat's ass about the Oscars, but
I don't either.
I didn't even watch the Oscars. I just saw the clip.
Yeah, same. I just saw the clip. I ain't watched the Oscars since I don't know.
Well, we have our we have our Oscars Lampoon party on the channel. It's one of our yearly traditions. Everyone shows up for. So we drink, we watch the Oscars. It was another good year, guys. Thank you for joining us. It was bigger than last year's, and that included the Will Smith slap. But the thing I really dug about his speech was he talked about how this is the American dream. Like, for as much as we watch entertainment that wants to shit on hard work or the dream or this or that, the traditional stuff we all agree is what gets you there, this dude still kind of believes in that shit. I just thought it was kind of you talk about being heartwarming. I thought it was refreshing, too, to not hear, like, this self-aggrandizing bullshit speech about, like, oh, I want to thank this person and that person. No, like, he gave a great speech on top of a great performance. So I'm just happy a Goonie fucking did it.
Yeah.
Did you see all the Goonies called him to wish him or to tell him congratulations?
I did see the clip, and they also recorded. I saw some of their reactions, when they were watching it live. And something else, come to find out, they're actually, since the filming of the Goonies, they're actually all on a Christmas email chain. And so every Christmas since that movie came out, they all talk through this through this group email, wishing each other Merry Christmas and catching up with what everybody's doing. And they've been doing it every year since the filming of Goonies.
Fuck yeah. That makes me happy. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I'm really happy we're past the whole, like, there was that weird moment in time where everyone's like, the Goonies is overrated. It's not as good as everyone says. It's a pretty terrible movie. Like, that was a conversation
classic.
when I was in college. I hated that fucking conversation. It's like, the Goonies is the greatest kids movie ever.
Oh, so good.
I should go watch it tonight. I don't have time. But what do we have time for? The audience, the wonderful audience. So, folks, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a wonderful show so far. I'm trying to find the right tab, and then I will continue. There we are. So, first off, Shrubbles08 says, I'll take a Joe Rogan high as fuck and a message, please. Of course. Ask and you shall receive here on WCBS. And so, first off is your message, which is right here.
Message! Message! Message!
God.
And he's blasting off again, folks.
Imagine if you gave a white supremacist 5-MeO DMT, and then as the first one, as they're exhaling,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Joe Rogan is a pretty good spokesman for DMT. He's always talking about it. It makes it sound amazing.
Yeah. How long do you think he's gonna live?
Another 100 years, probably.
I think he'll make it 100 years. If anybody has like preserved themselves with doing crazy shit to their body, it's Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Shrubbles08, thank you very much. Trace XL, thank you very much for your very generous super chat. He says, after watching phase 1 through 3, I can promise that if you watch chronologically and skip Captain People, you will miss absolutely nothing context-wise. Her popping up in Endgame is a little weird, but But is it any weirder than other superheroes randomly popping up in other films?
Not weird enough for me to care.
No.
No.
I watched Captain Marvel one time in 2019, and then a second time in 2019 when we did the drunk commentary, and that was it. I can't even like ironically put it on. That movie offers no value to me.
It's really boring. It's just her winning for like an hour, and that's it.
Well, that's what we all want to see, right? A character face no adversity.
Yeah, she just wins for an hour, and it's like conquers every obstacle pretty easily, and then at the end, she gets even more powerful, is able to defeat everyone else easily, even more.
It was so bad. I barely got through one watch of it, and that was at home when I got to watch it for free.
God, it's such a terrible movie. I hope Brie Larson.
And yet, it's not the worst. And yes, it's not the worst MCU film.
Oh, dude, no! I would rank a couple shittier, like Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Shang-Chi.
I would say Eternals.
I still haven't gotten through Doctor Strange 2.
Oh wow.
I keep falling asleep.
And what else? Wakanda Forever was really bad. It was really bad. God bless Mary, but she made me watch that, and I regretted every moment of it.
Up next is Dixon Cider, who says, I asked Greg Maddox to decorate my house, but all he did was paint the corners.
Wow.
Baseball joke?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Trace XL, thank you very much for another very generous super chat. He says, Blade was a so-so character early in his existence. Marvel and Wesley Snipes made him cool in the first two films, so it can be done to make a lesser-known character popular. So why can't they now? Well, I think it's because the wrong people make entertainment. The branding is so important to these people. They think the brand. They don't really think about the character or the bigger things. Because to make Blade so cool and popular, you had to make him his own, like this unique thing in that movie. In that movie, he's a badass dude. I didn't even realize it was the same character as the one in the Spider-Man cartoon. Like, that's how different and cool he was. So you're right, you can take and change it. I don't think there's anything really to... I guess that's crazy to say because there's like 5,000 Marvel characters, but I do feel like we've really pulled all the mainstream ones outside of the X-Men, and I can't think of any ones that are like that haven't been touched that I want to see. Andrew, your knowledge goes deep. All you guys, is there anything that hasn't been adapted you think still has value in it?
Sure, there's stuff that still has value, whether or not Disney currently has the fortitude and the wherewithal to hire people to actually do a property correctly. That's, well, probably up for debate. Both Marvel and DC have these massive pantheons of characters. That's why it's so frustrating when those of us who grew up with these comic book characters see them do these race swaps, gender swaps, and whatever, all these tokenizations of characters when they adapt them to the TV and film. Because you're like, what are you doing? You have all of these other characters here. You've got a 6-inch thick compendium of your Marvel encyclopedia of all the different characters in your damn universe, and you haven't touched a fraction of them. And instead of touching any of these other characters that already check all these boxes that you're trying to convince everybody is so damn important, you're just changing existing ones. Why? I'll tell you why. It's because they only see legitimacy in traditionally white things, and they want to utilize the branding of existing popular characters. That's why.
I like how they think the old version of something means it's white and therefore it's bad. I'm not white, and I've always just looked at it, hey, it's the version. It's like, oh, like we're coming up on Black Captain America. Am I racist for not wanting Black Captain America, Andrew? Should I go?
No,
talk
I
to
don't think you're
someone about
racist for just not wanting Captain America that isn't Steve Rogers.
Yeah,
I didn't even like Captain America.
I didn't even like the other white guy in the show when he was trying to be Captain America.
Oh, John Walker.
Oh yeah,
he was
supposed. Yeah, he was supposed
I was like,
to be.
fuck
a dick.
this dude, man.
He was
I was like,
goober and a half.
he's not Captain America, and I really respected Falcon for not taking up the shield, and I actually liked his character even more.
Yeah,
and then as soon as he was like, okay, and he got the shield, and he's like, I'm doing it, and he gets the suit, I'm just like, oh man, fuck you now too, dude.
Immediately gets on the preachy race bullshit, and it's like, look, you just took a demotion. You were a original black character who was universally liked by everyone. Everyone. And all of a sudden, you decide to take the title and gear of another character and you turn into a jackass. And nobody cares now. You get people on Twitter pretending to care. They might change their profile picture to you. They might say hashtag biggest Sam Wilson Captain America fan in their bio, but they're not buying your merch. They're not reading your comic books. They don't care. I know because none of that shit sells. We can look at the numbers.
Right now on GameSpot, the Sam Wilson 2-pack is on clearance because people don't care about that cap.
No.
I mean,
I would buy a Falcon figure.
People want to see the character they want to see, and we know what they look like. So, of course, right now, it's easy to call everyone who disagrees racist and sexist or whatever, because the way they're changing the characters is by race swaps and gender swaps. But, I mean, if everyone remembers, like, when Nicolas Cage wanted to be Superman, people, that's a joke. People laugh at that because that's stupid.
Yeah. And people also forget that comic book fans weren't particularly happy when Bucky was Captain America for a time either. Because people recognize Steve Rogers as Captain America. Bucky is slightly more acceptable in a temporary setting than anybody else. And that's only because of the history between the two. But ultimately, Steve Rogers is Captain America, and I don't want anybody else holding the shield.
Same. 100%
in fact,
agree.
There's a legendary Batman story, I think, called Black Mirror. And that one begins with Batman not being Batman. It's I think it's Dick Grayson or someone who has taken over the cowl of Batman. I couldn't get past that, so I haven't finished the book yet. But it's just I don't want to read Batman who isn't Batman. I don't want to watch a movie in which I'm watching Captain America who isn't Captain America. I don't want to see a person with a mantle. I want to see the character. And like, even Stan Lee was like, "There's no reason we should be changing established characters. That just alienates an audience." if you want to have a character with a new perspective or new kind of elements to it,
Make a new
make a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Stan Lee was pumping out new characters left and right. It was like that was his job. Boom, 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 boom. He was, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. That's why he created X-Men, so he can create more characters faster.
Yeah.
Because then he wouldn't have to worry about the origin story. Like,
fuck it, they're just born this way.
They're born this way. Stan Lee was a brilliant man. That's his job. His job was not to preach to you. His job was selling comics. If going over a current event or a social issue in the background, because he always put in the background, he accentuated story and character first. He used like social issues and crap as seasoning, which is how you're supposed to do it. If that helps sell, that's what he did. That's what Stan Lee was there to sell comics, not to change the world via politics and change social policies. His job was to sell comic books, and that's what he did. That's what he became a master at.
Mm-hmm. He did. And you're right about the seasoning part. I get this from a lot of entertainment where it's like, oh yeah, we're here to talk about this thing, but then all we do is talk about politics for a couple hours. It's like, season it. Don't make it the main event, man. All the entertainment. What is worse, though? I wanted to ask you guys this question, not to go back too much. What is worse, the way they take up and change the established characters, or the way they do established characters and turn them into self-insert characters? Like, would you rather have a Steve Rogers who's a self-insert, or a Sam Wilson who's just the wrong Captain America?
Probably the Sam Wilson who's just like, if he's well written still, like it'll be annoying, but if he's a proper character and well written, then I'll take that guy over some cringy self-insert character.
God, man, that's a tough one.
Can I choose option C? Neither.
I mean, that would be easy.
That's kind of where I'm at.
That's literally where I'm at, because I stopped buying Marvel and DC comics because those were the two options to choose from, and I'm like, or you're forgetting option C. I just don't give you my money anymore.
Yeah, that's the main one. Actually, there is a trope. There is a trope called the possession Sue. Like it's a different, like there's a whole varieties of different Mary Sues, depending on what circumstance it is. There is one called the possession Sue, in which the creator goes in, takes an established character, but makes it them. So it's not written the proper way. It's just a character in which the writer has taken the established famous character, rewritten it, and made it their own, like made it themselves or the way they want the character to be. That's actually an actual trope that's been happening. But usually it's associated with Mary Sue's.
So there hasn't been any successful application of it yet?
There might have been. Usually if the successful application would be they're written in character and written well. And reasonable.
Have you guys heard that the Flintstones are going to get that Velma treatment with that Bedrock show? And so you ready for more
feminist pebbles?
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh.
Be prepared for more self-insert characters and more. It really is self-referential humor of a bunch of people out of touch jerking each other off. That's what I get when I watch these shows. It's like, oh, look at how smart we are. Oh, politics, we're smarter than you.
That's the Oscars and the Grammys and all that stuff. So that's why I don't watch them. I don't want to watch these people jerk each other off. It's just it's gross.
Yep,
it's not your brand of entertainment. Oh yeah, but we do have the audience to check in on. Thank you very much, TraceXL. TLJ Screwjob says, just got here, 10 p.m. my time, but saw Nightwing. Panel's thought on first meeting flashbacks like Teen Titans 2003 showing first meeting in season 5. So what are your thoughts on first meeting flashbacks? I've been doing a lot of X-Men work, so the first appearance of the X-Men in the flashback of the show is pretty fun. I'm trying to think about... There's a good one in the old Spider-Man cartoon that tells you how all the old Justice Society of America members came together. So I do like that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Them once they're established, like this is why I've argued, I think before in one of my videos, that you don't need, like if you make a new Batman movie, you don't need to necessarily go over the Wayne's death for the 4 millionth time, and necessarily, unless it pertains to the story. So we don't need to know the origins of a character in episode 1 or movie 1 or installment 1. We just don't. But it's far more powerful, far more of a powerful, interesting thing if we get to know the character first and then later on we get to know their origin. So we get so it becomes way far more cool if we later on we say, oh, how did these two great friends meet? That's interesting because we know that they're friends. We know who these characters are, what they're like, and we know what kind of virtues they share, values they share, conflicts they have. And then we go back and say, how did they guys meet? And that becomes an interesting thing.
What were the events that actually got them here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I read the first Batman story. It didn't have anything about Wayne's dying or anything like that. And it was still pretty fun. And it still launched a whole franchise called Batman. Mm-hmm. So you don't actually need the origin story. You just need the character to be mysterious and cool and competent in some way. And then once you've invested in the character and you're actually interested, then we can go and explore the origin.
Yeah.
Isn't one of the earlier issues of Batman the one with the laughing Joker fish?
Yep.
Isn't it a fairly early one? Okay.
Yeah, where the Joker tried poisoning the water supply in Gotham with the laughing gas Joker fish shit.
Because I'm a huge Batman fan, but I don't know the books that well.
Yeah, they didn't even get into Bruce Wayne's origin story in the comics till issue 33 in November of 1939. So it was 33 issues with no origin story of what made him become Batman.
Now, the contrary to that is one like Daredevil, in which the very first issue was the origin story, but it came full circle because the origin story explained why Daredevil was on this vendetta we see him on the beginning of the issue. It's like the beginning of the issue of Daredevil #1 is him going into this seedy place and beating up a bunch of guys and searching for the guy called the Fixer. And then we go to the backstory, who the hell is this guy? And we get to see all the backstory of little Murdoch, little Matty boy, as a kid. He gets blinded by the chemicals. His dad gets murdered, and then he spent his life training and educating himself so he can eventually take down the guys who murdered his dad. And so that's what he's doing. So the origin story cleanly moved us into and explained why he is doing what he's doing right now, that we see him in the issue. So as I said before, the origin story doesn't really matter. We don't need it to begin with, but if you can weave it into the story, that makes it essential.
Yeah,
I thought Batman '89 did a good job at weaving the origin in at the end. Because until the flashback.
Tim Burton?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the Wayne's death they were caused by Jack Napier, who eventually turned into the Joker. Yeah. That was really good a parallel. We actually needed to see the deaths. His parents died, is what caused him to become Batman. Oh, the murderer, that was the Joker. Boom. And so it did weave in pretty well. Want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
I follow a Facebook page called Michael Keaton Let's Get Nuts, and every day it's a new meme about that.
Are you serious?
I'll send you an invite, or I'll send you a link or something. It's legitimately a great page.
Have you ever seen that animated movies where they brought back Adam West?
Yes, I have.
And where he's there's a moment where he's turning evil because Catwoman gave him some poison or something like that gets rid of his morals or something, and he's slowly turning evil. And there's a point where he's fighting the Joker and Penguin and everything, and he starts quoting these other Batmen, he quotes Frank Miller's Batman, but it sounds funny because it's from Adam West's voice, and he's this is an operating table and I'm the surgeon. And he's saying that one, and he says, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts."
That would have been cool if in the upcoming Flash movie, if he went back to Adam West Batman, even if it was just for 2 minutes, he was in that universe, and then they had the pow bang, words on the screen, and he's like, "What is going on here with these words?" And then
he called Spider-Man chum.
Yeah.
I will not be seeing that movie in theaters. That movie is offensive to me viscerally because of Ezra Miller and just overall as a Flash fanatic. The Flash is that is my thing in comic books. The Flash.
I'm literally only interested in it to see Michael Keaton as.
I think that's the reason anybody would be interested.
I think they know that too, because all the posters I've seen for the movie is just a Batman poster with Flash in it.
Yeah, without him, I'm not watching this movie.
Exactly.
I'm guilty of doing one thing. They're making a bitchin' Batmobile for this movie to go into scale with the action figures. So I'm going to buy one thing from this movie, and I don't even think I'll go see it. I'll just buy the toy car. But Andrew, I don't know if you saw the images, the closer look at the Flash 2 costume, how it's a repainted bat suit. Oh God, it looks so dumb.
I didn't see that.
I'll send it to you, and you can get upset later. But
thank you.
I'll send it to you now, and you can get upset on air or later. Yeah, dude, I'm so glad we're great friends. I love Lisa so much.
I'll react to it. Just pull it up on the screen if you want. Shit.
Sure, I'm expecting The Flash to be a very divisive, interesting dumpster fire of a film that does flop hard. I think 2023 is the year where the superhero film shits the bed. Because I know Guardians. Sure, Guardians will be fine. Guardians can make money. That's great. Ant-Man's a flop. The Marvels is not going to be a hit. The Flash is not well received, or not going to be wanted. Hell, Indiana Jones ain't a fucking superhero movie, but that's not going to make the bank. And it's not that the world economy is, as you know, it is what it is, and problems are there, and things are good for other places. But like, this is it. This is what happens with peak saturation of bad content. Apathy from the audience. We're all apathetic. 10 years ago, if you would have said, hey, Jeff, in the future, you're going to get a James Bond, you're going to get, in a 2-year window, you'll have James Bond, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Spider-Man, all this shit. And I'm like, oh, man, that'd be crazy.
That sounds awesome.
Yes. But you see what these things are, and you're just like, no, I'm good.
Installation would just be the crucifixion of all the characters you love. So...
Holy shit, you weren't kidding.
You want to see the deballing of Indiana Jones? Go over here. You want to see the castration of James Bond? Go over here. If you want to see the entire all the masculinity and testosterone pumped out of Star Wars, go here. That's where we're at right now.
This is literally a spray painted bat suit.
Show it. Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that was a plot point or anything, but that's
I didn't know. I will share. Holy God in heaven.
Oh, hold on a second. You're going to have to wait a minute because we just got a giant super chat, and that means you get the button.
They say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the 3-way at Sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning. If we used to go one-on-one and then add 66 2/3%, I got 141 2/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice.
Boom. Adama.
Always hurts my brain.
But it refreshes my soul. Adama says, hail to the High Council. I hear people talking about superheroes becoming stale, and I had a thought. It all has to do with passion, knowledge, and writing. You have to have the passion and knowledge to be able to write an original take on superheroes. Well, LiteratureDevil, you have a lot of passion and knowledge. How do you feel about this statement?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's every single instance of deconstruction I've seen that actually works is done out of passion and love for the genre they're deconstructing. And what you get, the byproduct of passion and love is, of course, knowledge, because you'll be passionate about something. Like, I want to know everything about it. So I am. That's every nerd I know is like that. Like, I love this thing. I'm going to learn everything about it. I'm going to consume every single piece of information about it. So, yeah, every single time I've seen a proper deconstruction of something, it's always been done by someone who actually loves the genre they're deconstructing, because they know how it's put together. They know what pieces construct it in the first place. So they know what pieces to take apart, how to play with them, how to rearrange them, how to mess with them, how to focus on them, whatever it is. Oddly enough, one of the greatest ones that I've seen that was well put together was Modica Magica, which was a deconstruction of the magical girl genre, and it was made by someone who loved the magical girl genre. But it was great. It was a great deconstruction, very powerful. Like they added and they took away the girly aspects of it and made it like really dark and like this nihilistic. But they loved it. They loved the magical girl genre. You can tell in every aspect they add things into. They love the genre, and yeah. So you do need passion. You do need knowledge of the genre you're working in, and probably a lot of love too. Because if those who go in without the knowledge and without the love tend to do what they're doing now, and it's not deconstruction, it's just destruction. It's obliterating these things, but they have no idea how to put together.
They don't, and it's disappointing just as a fan, and as well, and you must feel the same way. It's just somebody who can create too. You're just like, come on, give people that want to do this shit like the chance. Like the people that are drawing the books at Marvel do want to do that, but the people that write and edit those books, they're just trying to get a job in Hollywood. They're just trying to get a job elsewhere. They're just trying to do something to stay relevant or be popular on Twitter. Like, they don't like comic books. They don't even like the business of what they do. Like, you can be really successful in comic books if you know the business, if you know what your goals are, your objectives are. You don't have to be the most passionate, ardent reader, but if you know this character with this character always works, and we get this writer to write it because they're both of their runs were successful, and we get this artist who's known for it. Like, all you need, like, if you're just fucking good at your job and you care about it, you can be the greatest comic book editor out there because you can take it from a business aspect because you're responsible for getting the creative people that are right for it. So it's like, nobody gives a fuck about any of this stuff. And that's what bothers me. You know, Adama, you talk about the passion. The internet has shown that there's so much passion out there and so much talent and ability. We all can produce now. You know, to make a comic book isn't as special as it used to be. It's still a lot of work. It's still a fucking huge undertaking and a big process. But through the internet, you can connect to people to make your work quicker. You know, with the right tools, you can get your pages done faster. Like, there's all these things out there. And so that, with the passion, we should be in this creative utopia where everything's great. Oh my God, did you read Spider-Man? Yeah, 10 out of 10. Did you read Batman? Dude, it was great. He, you know, didn't get cucked out on the altar. But everything, as the means of production are more readily available and easier, the work at the official level sucks ass. And that's so disappointing to me. It's like a reverse alternate 1985 where Biff is corrupt and powerful and married to your mother. This doesn't work.
Shoot. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
But Adama, thank you very much for your super generous, super duper super chat. We appreciate the passion you show for WCBS by being a member as well as showing up all the time and as well as that. So thank you. Now we were checking with the audience, correct? Still?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Every time I see Scott Steiner, I get so jazzed for wrestling. I'm like, dude, I'm going to go watch a WCW match. And then I realize it's the WCW. I was never a fan. Now, where were we at? TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. We did read the first. We did do the... Okay, Jack White was next. Jack said, Jeff, did the email... Did you get the email with the eBay link I sent you to sorry, let me reread that, folks. Jeff, did you get the email with the eBay link I sent you and the other series recommendations for you, Eureka 7? I didn't get the email. I'll have Kendo send that over to me, but I will take a screenshot of your recommendation and I will add it to the list. Got, you know, tons of those, so do that. Boom. Thank you, Jack. Jack again says, did you guys see the video Doomcock did with Cameron Pasha where Cameron talked about the source he spoke to and said KK is leaving and that he met with his source in person and verified his identity? I did not. You know, I saw
WDW Pro's video about that.
Oh, Pro's the one that broke it, huh?
Pro did do. I don't know who put out the video first, but I do know that Pro did a video on it.
Oh, okay. Like, I don't have any issues with Doomcock. People like his angle. He's entertaining. He's got a great shtick. No problem there. I never believed the Kathleen Kennedy thing. It's like the walrus, or it's like saying like, oh, John or Paul McCartney's dead, or this or that. It's like these things we talk about happening, but we have proof that it's not. You know, Paul McCartney's still alive. Kathleen Kennedy still has her job. All these things. I'm very much on the get that woman out of there. Believe me, I we started this shit doing the Star Wars stuff the way we did and connecting with everybody. Like, we're on board with Kathleen Kennedy getting right out of there. She's not good at her job. If they got people that are saying that, cool, man. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. I haven't seen this content. I like Cameron Pasha's work. I think he puts out, or he's always a good part of a show. I'll believe it when I see it, Andrew. Like you said, dude. Until she's fucking fired or out the door. Until the Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or a place, Time, People, Yahoo, anybody that's a reputable source, not We Got This Covered or those other comic sites that are just bullshit fan articles like the Mary Sue, when they post it, or when there's a video from NBC or one of these places, sure. When it's a real story, then it happened. But you got to remember,
and I'll go get a freaking handle of scotch when it does get it.
but remember this, folks. Remember this part. This is the ugly part you don't want to remember. Remember how many times you were told this is happening before you go celebrate and let this person get all the credit in the world for breaking the news. What is it? 30 times you were told that? 30 fucking times? Maybe more. I was going to say 100, but it would at least been 30 times. There were videos guaranteed she's out the door. When it's fucking done, cool. But it's been 5 years. It's been 5 years. And Andrew, when she's here, and Nick, we'll have you. We will get as many people together. We'll do a fucking mega stream. We'll all be streaming
big
at once.
Ass celebration stream.
Yeah, we'll jump from channel to channel. We'll be doing it awesome. And then we'll celebrate. It'll be like the end of Return of the Jedi. We'll get the fucking music to play. We'll get an Ewok to dance. Even a green girl or two. Like, we will fucking party hard. I will get shit-faced, and we will sing Ding Dong, the Witch is Gone. Sometime.
And then they replace her with someone even worse.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Also, keep in mind, just because she's gone doesn't mean anything's going to change.
Like Casey DeConnick to step in. Like,
you shut your mouth.
Yeah, if you don't like my politics done by my books lady, they'll get her to run Star Wars now.
It's true that, like, yes, she is a major part of the problem, but it's more than just her.
Yeah.
Kelly Sue DeConnick or Kathleen Kennedy?
Yes. She would be a massive start. Like, get her the fuck out of there. And then get some good people in there that are Star Wars fans, know what the hell they're talking about. And look, I don't see them reinstituting the EU as being canon ever.
No.
That's something we're just going to probably have to live with. And I'm a fan of the EU, to make that perfectly clear. I wish that's what we had. It's not what we have. However, if they can right the ship in terms of giving us, okay, so we don't have the events of the EU. Those didn't happen. But can we have the characters still remain the characters?
Yeah.
Can you tell new stories with these characters? And I will then chalk it up to being like when DC does a refresh of their universe and they kind of start from square one again, but the characters still feel like the characters. You're at least giving me what I'm here for. Yeah. The characters are what I'm here for. I'm not here just because of one particular event or another. No, I'm here because I'm an Obi-Wan Kenobi fan. I'm here because I'm a Revan fan. I'm here because I'm a Bane fan, or whoever else that I enjoy. Zana. If you give me that, and you give me good stories with there that respect those characters, you don't have to retell the same stories, but if you tell me new stories while respecting those characters, I will be happy. Because the characters are what matter the most. And as long as something is in line with what fans know these characters to be, and doesn't disrespect those, we are more than happy to have new stories told with them. But you have to keep the characters. The characters are the heart of any story. The characters separate one franchise from another. You can have world-ending events or galaxy-spanning wars in any sci-fi franchise. In fact, every single sci-fi franchise out there has exactly those. But what separates those? The characters.
I agree. They're well said.
Yep.
They don't respect the characters.
Nope.
Now, TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much, says, not saying I don't like 2008 Clone Wars, but it's really bad like you guys mentioned, just leave the Ahsoka Annie goes wise mentor to... Wait, sorry. But it is really bad, like you guys mentioned, just leave like Ahsoka. Annie goes from wise mentor to... shithead Dooku. I haven't watched after the Revival series when Ahsoka came back. I don't know those episodes of the Clone Wars. So,
I haven't even finished the first season. No, I take that back. I did see the entire first season of the Clone Wars. That's it.
I watched a lot, and I don't regret it. Thank you very much, TLJ Screwjob, against this. I personally don't want them to fix sequels. Why? They won't do the EU justice even if they brought it back. Plus, bad sequels lead people to good EU, i.e. Original Thrawn. How about this? How about they do a Star Wars universe where they do these highly detailed CGI animated films based on the EU with the likeness of the actors of the original trilogy. So it's like you'll see the Thrawn trilogy, and it'll be a CGI-looking Harrison Ford and a cartoon Luke and a cartoon Leia. Would you guys watch those? Like, if, let's say Disney didn't shit the bed and piss you off as a brand and all this other stuff, but let's just say, hypothetically, you were at net zero with Star Wars. You're just like, I'm open to whatever, and they put those out. Would that be a concept you could have got behind?
I would.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
As long as they were properly adapting the story, hell yeah.
Yep. There's actually a guy on YouTube, Darth Angelus, who is doing Heir to the Empire, all animated. He's doing one chapter at a time, and I think he's on like chapter 20 or 21 at this point. But he animates, has voice actors, everything. He does it all himself.
I'll have to check it out.
Yep.
Darth Angelus, you said?
Yep.
Trace XL, thank you again. He says, here you go, Jeff. You can call the video Disney Lucasfilm series of retarded events. I guess Lemony Snicket won't write that one. Thank you, TLJ. Thank you, Trace XL. TLJ Screwjob is up next. I thought Jeff asked, what Star Wars would you watch, not make? That's what I originally asked, but then Nick gave a great answer, TLJ Screwjob, so I'm like, all right, I'm down with that. That's better. The Real Rogue One with Kyle Katarn and show the first mission of Dark Forces. I remember that as the first-person Star Wars game. That's where Dark Forces lives in my brain. Just that was a cool game.
I misunderstood your question earlier.
Oh, you're good. You gave a better answer than what I wanted to hear, because it would have given me... I gave you one of 9 options, and then you pitched your own Star Wars movie. So, yeah, bonus points to EchoBaseNetwork, folks. Go give them an extra subscribe. Go make sure you're joined to their channel as well. Join their membership program. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. He says, Headcase Laboratory is next. He says, I think the only time race swapping worked was for both Two-Face and Lex Luthor in the old Batman, Superman, and Justice League cartoon. Lex Luthor wasn't
race swapped in that.
And neither was Two-Face.
Yeah.
Headcase, you know what it is? It's the art style, because there are only 2 of 3 characters that have fully drawn lips.
Oh.
Harvey Dent has fully drawn lips. Lex Luthor has fully drawn lips, but Metallo also has fully drawn lips. Everyone else has a line for a mouth. The female characters have lips, but everyone else has a line from the Bruce Timm style. So, now, he is slightly darker than Superman, but he's still... I've always seen him as a white guy.
He can afford those high-end tanning beds.
Yeah. It's like... It's not... I don't even think he's as mixed as, like, I would be, or The Rock, or somebody like that. I legitimately think he's just like a... Like, you know, Telly Savalas was Greek, but still you classified him as like a white guy or whatever. He was like a slightly different shade than James Bond was. That's how I've always seen Lex Luthor in the cartoon Headcase Laboratory. But funnily enough, I think Telly Savalas would have made a decent Lex Luthor if they did. They would have put him in if they would have put him in the old ones. But I digress.
Also, I think what was it? Harvey Dent was race swapped in the movie.
Yes,
he was played by Lando Calrissian.
Baddest motherfucker in the galaxy. Excuse me, smoothest motherfucker in the galaxy. I will say, though, Headcase Laboratory, one time that a race swap absolutely works for me, and I know this is going to erase some eyebrows, but James Bond, Felix Leiter. I think Jeffrey Wright is a damn good Felix Leiter in Casino Royale, and when his character arc comes to an end in No Time to Die, I was more emotionally invested in what happened to Felix than James Bond. that was a good change. Now,
I didn't
now
even know he was a race swap character.
Yeah, because Felix
that shows how much I know about James Bond, though.
Well, because the thing is, Felix is not in all the movies, and like you said, you've only seen all the Brosnan and a couple other ones. Felix Leiter's not in any of the Brosnan ones. What happened is he's in the first one, then he's in Goldfinger, and then he doesn't really pop up again until You Only Live. Is he only live twice? Maybe he's in that one too. But he pops up as like a side character, and he's a different actor in every movie except for 2. And it's back in the 70s and 80s, so there's no reason most people would know who Felix Leiter is, because in License to Kill, he got his leg bitten off, and then they wrote him out of the movies. So, for 20 years nearly, Felix Leiter wasn't around. But I do like the black version.
The only one that really never bothered me was Nick Fury in the MCU.
Oh, that's a cool one. Ooh, you remember, dude, the MCU Nick Fury is based off the Ultimate Nick Fury, so in the comic book, that version was already based off Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
They made Nick Fury black in the Ultimate Universe with the express purpose of having Samuel L. Jackson play him in live action.
I only knew Nick Fury from old school days.
Yeah, and then they brought him over to the main Marvel Universe 616 and did this weird origin reboot where he's actually the son of the original white Nick Fury, and it made no fucking sense whatsoever. I am one of those people that I take a hard line stance on any kind of race swap or gender swap. That said, I can also separate quality of performance from that, and I can say that's not Nick Fury to me. And Trace, my good buddy Trace in the chat, will agree with me. We've had this conversation multiple times before in Discord. That's not Nick Fury, but I love that performance and that character that Samuel L. Jackson played on the screen, because he knocked it out of the park. That character that was written, it's not Nick Fury, but it was fucking fun and phenomenal.
No, I agree about the hard no on a lot of race swaps and stuff. I guess I'll just give Felix that one pass. But Adama, again, thank you very much for your very generous super chat. He says, it's not just deconstruction, but creating a great take on any genre. I always look at the movie Push with Chris Evans and the new movie Secret Headquarters. Great superhero movies without any history in the medium.
Push was a fun movie. I forgot about that movie.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I completely forgot about that movie. I saw that when it came out. Yeah, that was actually well done.
I have not seen Push. I remember it coming out, and I didn't see it. It was during that era of like comic book movies that weren't based on books you had read, but they were still getting movies. Yeah, it looks cool. That's
when they were doing things like Jumper and all that. And League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, kind of that same
the era. Movie that made Sean Connery quit acting. Great.
Oh yeah, literally did. Like that was his last movie.
Yep. He was.
I like that movie, but not because it's good. Like, cause I like the fact that it's a bunch of literary characters like fighting each other. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I have fun with that movie, but it's not good.
Do you think that kind of take, and this will be our last question for the night, do you think that kind of take could work where you take pre-established characters and try to tie them together? Or do you think shared universes have kind of limitations by like Marvel with being under one umbrella? Do you think the idea of like, let's say Sherlock Holmes, James Bond, Dorian Gray, and who's another character, Dick Tracy, all team up? Like, do you think there's, I know it's a dumb, take Dick Tracy out, but like literary characters, do you think there's like a medium for that anymore?
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
In comics, I don't know how well it would work on in a movie or a TV show. It'd probably be way too expensive.
I mean, I love the characters from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, like all public domain, so it was pretty easy. Until you got to the weird, the later on League of Extraordinary Gentlemen comic books in which she's like fighting Harry Potter, who's the Antichrist and stuff like that. But the thing is, that would be pretty fun. I mean, ideally they'd all be public domain, like Sherlock Holmes is public domain. It's just become tradition to ask the Conan Doyle estate, if I can write a Sherlock Holmes thing, but you don't have to. You don't have to ask them. But it'd be pretty cool, I think. As just what Marvel is running into now is the same issue that comic books ran into. Because it started off really cool. Like you just have to, I'll just watch this movie and then this movie and then this movie. and I'm all caught up. Now I got to watch like 10 movies. I got to watch this TV show. I got to watch this TV show. I got to watch this movie over here. This to catch up with everything enough so I can watch this movie or this upcoming one. They kind of came up with this. Where do I start? I mean, I guess you start with. Actually, where do you start? I guess you start with Iron Man, Captain America. There's things that they're going to go into the past now, things like that. So they're kind of running into, like the same problem the comic books are running into. Like getting new people into the MCU is becoming far more daunting because if you're here at the beginning, it's like, oh, I just watch the movies as they come out. Now, if you're a new person coming into the MCU, it's like, oh, I got to watch all of this. Maybe not. Maybe not. That's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of content. And not just that, now you got to watch all these other shows too. You got to watch like Loki. You got to watch the WandaVision. You got to watch all those things too. Not only that, they might be compelled to watch like, Daredevil, Punisher, that one detective lady. I forgot what her name is. But those Iron Fist.
Oh, Jessica Jones?
Yeah, Jessica Jones, yeah. You'll be compelled to watch those too, maybe, to see if those tie in. They don't always tie in either. So you're kind of stuck. All these things like watching She-Hulk. You have to watch. Do you have to watch She-Hulk to see where you're going? So it becomes a chore to be caught up with everything because they're so intertwined. Like it does have the bonus of playing off of things that came before. It does have the bonus of having a lot of lore established already, and so you can focus on other things and smaller stories and things, and build off of things that came before. But also comes with the negative of requiring the audience to have already watched all that stuff, and that's becoming as we get more and more content, that's becoming a larger and larger ask.
Yeah, when we had our stream this last Saturday, we were talking about the last episode of Mandalorian, and somebody was like, "Do you not know Mandalorian lore, or have you not read the EU?" And I'm like, I've read very little of it, but I shouldn't have to go read all this stuff to understand what's happening in the show. Like, they should explain it, even if it's just in like one or two sentences, or whatever. Explain it as quick and simple as you can.
Well, none of that old EU stuff is considered canon by Disney anyway, so that was a non-argument on that person's point.
Yeah. True.
I don't mind shared universe stuff because I think I can appreciate, as a fan, as in Star Wars, Marvel, DC, whatever. I'm used to investment, but what I don't like is this weird notion that it seems like more and more studios are trying to push for a shared universe and things like that. It's like, no, I do also want my breathing room from this stuff, and I want to just be able to watch a movie that stands on its own, and maybe it has a couple of sequels at most, and that's it. I don't need to watch 25 films in order to know everything that's going on. I'm totally cool with that. Like, my favorite film franchise of all time, Mission Impossible. There's less than 10 of those right now, and there will ultimately be less than 10 of them, at least when Tom Cruise finishes. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't need it to go on forever. I can just keep rewatching the ones that exist because they're that good. I like being able to watch a good movie and say that was a good movie, and then that'd be that.
This next one looks like it's gonna be pretty badass.
Oh man, that is my most looked forward to movie of this year. I cannot wait to go see that in IMAX. No, not just IMAX. If they put it in my local theaters, my local Regals, what's it called, 4DX or whatever, where you get the effects and the movement on the chair and all that. I will do the whole thing for that movie.
Which movie do you think is gonna have a better box office overall by the end of the run? Indiana Jones or Mission Impossible?
Oh, Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
Mission Impossible is easy.
Remember, Mission Impossible's following up Top Gun. We're looking at Mission Impossible as almost like the Tom Cruise trilogy of his. I don't know what he's going to do after the last Mission Impossible. I think he's going to retire soon, kind of go out on top. That's my guess. So I think we're looking at the end of his career. We're looking at him going out in the bang, and a lot of people really being receptive to that. Indiana Jones, bro, is way passe. This what Disney's hoping for to happen with this Indiana Jones is what they did in 2008. They failed to realize they pulled this off. They brought back the merchandise, the nostalgia. They tried to introduce Indiana Jones to the next generation, and it didn't work. The old folks and the people that grew up in the 90s, like me, came back to watch Indiana Jones. You disappointed us. It went away for almost 20 years again, 15, and now they're trying it again. I think that movie's DOA. That movie looks bad, and I know James Mangold's made good films, but he's never made a Lucasfilm, and those movies are...
Yep.
Let's get ready to close this out. One thing I want to say about Mission Impossible, and then I'm going to leave it be. That new stunt that they keep promoting for that movie is not impressive to me for one reason. That is the same stunt from GoldenEye. Like, I don't get why they're promoting it as this groundbreaking stunt. Because in 1995, James Bond drove his motorcycle off the side of a cliff, dove down, caught the airplane, and then flew out. Like... I know it's really Tom Cruise and it's a whole different beast and I'm really into it as a stunt. I just find it interesting that like literally the stunt they're selling this whole movie on is 1-to-1 from GoldenEye. Like the first stunt, the second stunt. The first is the bungee jump, then it's the escape. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there and get that on record. So guys, we're gonna close this. Oh, dude, I can't wait to see that fucking movie. Now, folks, we're going to close this out. It's been a nice episode. Nick, where can we find you on the internet, sir?
EchoBaseNetwork. If you just type in the YouTube search, it'll be the only one that pops up.
The only one you need, folks.
You guys are the one and only.
Yeah, we do a live stream every Saturday night at 7 Central. And then we put out content off and on throughout the week, and we'll randomly, if our schedules match up, we'll do random chill streams during the week if there's like some breaking news. But our Mando review will be out first thing in the morning, and then every time me and Coach watch it, and then we'll record our review separately, drop that, and then I'll take and chop the episode up as we're reacting to it, and then put some filters on the video and all that so we don't get copyrighted, and then we will release that so you can actually see our reaction during certain parts throughout the episode as well.
Nice.
LiteratureDevil, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on YouTube, LiteratureDevil. I used to talk about stories, the construction of the stories, narrative theory, things like that. And one of my favorites is debunking all this crap that they Hollywood keeps shoving down our throats. So yeah, you want to go to LiteratureDevil on YouTube? That's where I'm at.
And now you have a comic that's coming up. It's Dr. Alpha #2, correct?
Yeah, Dr. Alpha Dead Man's Lullaby.
Can we get a link to that in the chat, mods?
And I got some pages to show if you want to see them.
Yeah, and by the way, Nick, I know you got to head out, dude, so if you want to just cut out because you got some stuff to do in the morning, man, that's why we gave you the outro first. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you want to pull up those pages real quick, because we got another super chat.
All right, guys. Yeah, I'm going to jump out, finish up some work, and hit the sack so I can get up early. But always a pleasure being here. Thank you to all the mods here, everybody that sent super chats, and we'll take and talk to you guys later.
Take care,
See you,
brother.
man. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate you, dude.
Always great having you.
All right, so we got some pages to show. What is up, man? Ooh, hold on. Let me take the super chat off and show this on screen.
Some pages here. Got here's the ones that have been colored already. Got the waking up, the conflict already happening by page 6. You got fights already happening, and then got that. Okay, so here's this next page is going to be one of the new ones I got today. In fact, this one is colored. The new colored pages coming in. We added this page because everyone had a problem with Dr. Alpha being naked, so we added a new page so you can get pants. This page was added just so we could show you getting his pants, and then we go down the hallway where he encounters a lot more minions, and we got more brutal fights in here. Now they've been colored, and there's blood everywhere,
dude. And this looks great.
Down the lobby, and then it's like the calm down lobby. There's college girls on vacation, guys talking in the lobby, and middle class family going up the elevator. I have the dad is telling a dad joke about elevators and stairs until then it opens up, and boom, murder. blood, gore.
Mm.
And Dr. Alpha, his dialogue here is going up. And then we have
the knife going through the guy's eye.
Exactly. And we have this, and the knife is still in his back. There's one knife they got somewhere, and another knife in his back still from earlier. And then we go into another fight scene that I kind of was inspired by Raid 2. That's why it takes place in the kitchen. And we end on a butt shot. That's page 20.
Hey man,
So
I'm a comic fan. I love me some good butt shots.
I love the way your colorist uses the atmospheric interference for depth, and then the effect they use for the video, the overlay, to make it look, whatever the screens they're watching. That's great. That's a really good looking book, man.
Yeah, we discussed it back and forth for a while to make sure to make the panels that are supposed to be in the past or it's supposed to be different, to have some distortion. And we had we put together a color scheme. We kind of took inspiration from Hotline Miami a little bit, especially when the battles start to go. So to make it pop and to make it highlight.
It does pop, dude. It does. Andrew, anything you'd like to say before we put this baby to bed? And yes, I'm going to read the super chat. Do not worry, TLJ Screwjob. But Andrew, anything you'd like to say?
I thank everybody in the chat for hanging out. Thank our awesome panelists, LitDev, and I know Nick already had to jet. Want to thank them for being here. And everybody for showing all the love and support in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here with us every Tuesday night. And you can check me out over on Twitter, where I'm having a grand old time with everybody over there.
Oh, Twitterverse.
Yeah.
Now, folks, from our friend TLJ Screwjob, question about exposition for Jeff and LitDev. Is there any good way to do it or no? Like Michael and Mo Green talk about Fredo fucking up and the whole conversation in the hotel in The Godfather. I believe there is a good way for exposition, and I'm working on I'm always working on projects. Wokebusters is not really, it doesn't need that kind of work, but I was working on something else. And for exposition, what we had done is we used the TV narrative to let you know more about the character. So there's a news anchor that's talking about the events that this character is a businessman and he's going to be selling something big. And so the story's about a business merger and other things. And to tell about that, we just use the TV and a couple other flashback panels and stuff like that in a very natural way that the character would actually hear the news themselves. So that's how we used it. What about you, LitDev?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do exposition correctly. Just don't bore your reader is the main rule. But have you ever seen, if you watch a YouTube video or if you watched an interview with somebody, if you watched someone give a speech or something like that you've actually found interesting, that you felt compelled to listen to, and you're tied to the chair, tied to the screen. You go and watch those again and ask yourself, why are you listening to it? What makes it so interesting? Why are you so compelled to learn about it? And I think that's it's kind of I can I could just give you fish and feed you for a day, or I can teach you how to fish or show you the right way how to fish and feed you for a lifetime. So I could spend a long time detailing about different ways to do exposition, but I think it's a little more interesting if you find out how for yourself what you're interested in and why you're interested in certain things, like a lecture or an interview. What exactly is compelling to you about the interview, and then kind of highlight those aspects and detail it down and say, and then use it for yourself. And that's how you make exposition. Because what's an interview? It's just exposition. What is a lecture? It's just exposition. A speech is exposition. Nothing's actually happening. It's just someone talking and giving you highlights, giving you information. Basically, exposition. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just this is how it is. But the thing is, some people give really good, compelling speeches. Some people give really good, compelling interviews. And while not every interview is interesting to every single person, you personally probably have one or two or a multitude of different ideas in mind of what interviews you've listened to, what speeches, what lectures, what YouTube video you might have seen on, like you listen to a Joe Rogan, for example. That's nothing but a lot of that's exposition, where they're just talking about interesting things like Atlantis, the drugs, whatever it is. Why are you interested? What are they doing that makes you interested in this person? How they speak, how they talk, and how they present the detailed information. Like this, listen to these things again, and then pay attention to how they say things and in what ways they say it. And then you'll see how you might get a better idea how to grasp how to write effective exposition. That's what I think, anyway.
Well said.
I like your take on it. I think there's a lot of different ways to approach a similar, problem. And folks, tomorrow night, if you want to hear us talk more about creativity, then join the creator stream. We're going to be talking about comics, promoting projects, all sorts of stuff like that. So that's going to go live tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern here on the channel. I don't know how long the show is going to be, but it'll be a good time because it's on WCBS. So, folks, we dropped a video this morning on Ant-Man. We have the X-Men interview coming up. Like I said, folks, Thursday at the latest. It's a beast to edit. I got it. Multiple channels, multiple, videos, all kinds of stuff. So we're going the extra mile for you guys because you're joining the membership program. So that's going to stay on the membership program and be on our Patreon page at the video tier for everybody that wants to get access to it that way. But we'll have tons of content coming to YouTube this week, including some Ghostbusters stuff and a lot more. So join us on Thursday for the WCBS podcast at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can make the trip, you're going to want to come out to the WrestleMania meetup. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, this is an opportunity to come hang out with world-class bullshitters. We're going to Universal. There's going to be meals. There's going to be hanging out. We're going to go look at some collectibles down in Santa Monica. We're going to have a good time. So, folks, come out, hang out with WCBS. We'll press you the button on the outro tonight. But from all of us here, thank you for watching. In the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. Attention, all wrestling fans! Get ready for the ultimate fan experience at the WCBS Wrestlemania Fan Meetup in Los Angeles, California from March 30th through April 2nd. This event will bring together the biggest event in wrestling and your favorite